Good last week when you got it done.
Gloucester Township Council meeting, April 9th, 2018.
Good evening. They'll be speaking about this, they'll be drawing the ping pong balls, and I ask that you give them respect and the students that are here, because our students here are going for a scholarship. So I appreciate your patience here. We'll go through the drawings, and then we'll go into our regular meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Orlando.
They're not letting students in. They said nobody else can come in. There's a whole bunch of students in the hallway.
Ma'am, unfortunately, we're at capacity. Those students, we had to go to each student. If they're not here present, it gets drawn, it gets highlighted, and they're notified. Yeah. But unfortunately, I've been notified by the police chief that they have to come up to line because we're at capacity here. Excuse me? If there are some folks that want to leave during this presentation, we'll take about 45 minutes, then we're welcome to leave. Okay. So we're going to move forward with a scholarship drawing. Okay, we'll try to move through this as quickly as we can. I know circumstances are not ideal here, but okay. Thank you. My name is Dick Hollins. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, please come back after we're done the drawing. Thank you. Okay, my name is Dick Hollins. I'm the Assistant Treasurer for the Gloucester Township Scholarship Committee. As Mr. Orlando said, we're doing this more because during the year we have a variety of fundraising events designed specifically to raise as much money as we can so that it can be returned to the kids from Gloucester Township who are going to college. We started this program 33 years ago, and during the last 33 years, we've been able to award more than $1 million to the kids in Gloucester Township who meet the criteria. Thank you. Our scholarship program is a little bit different in that we have more requirements, and so a lot of kids meet those requirements having to do with grade point average and either SAT or ACT scores. As a result, we have many more qualified students than we have money to give out. But tonight, we will be awarding 45 $1,000 scholarships, and we have 422 students from Gloucester Township. Some go to Highland, some to Timber Creek, some to Triton, and I believe around 20 to 25 of them go to private and parochial schools but live in Gloucester Township. So it's a very inclusive kind of scholarship, and we're giving out 45 of them. We've got 422 ping pong balls here, each with a number, and hopefully if you are following along with this, and if your eyes are better than mine, you picked up a sheet of paper that looks like this. If you don't have one of these and you are a student or the parent of a student, can we get those? Who got the, okay, they're in the back. Thank you. Well, just put your hand up and Jasmine will come around and give you one of these, because this is the list that has the 422 students' names on it. They are listed in alphabetical order. Every student has a number from 1 to 422. I need to tell you, because this happened earlier, that in making up this list, occasionally I make a typo. Whatever number is assigned to the student, even if we have misspelled your name by one letter, this is your number. Okay, so those of you who are here hoping to win one of these scholarships, find your name on the list, memorize your number, and when we call it out, you'll know that it's time to cheer, because this is political. We're not in school. It's okay to be very happy when you win. In addition to the 45 $1,000 scholarships, we'll be pulling an additional 10 names at the end as alternates. The reason for that is that occasionally some of the students who have applied end up not going to college. So we'll then award the first alternate with a scholarship if one of the students does not go who was in the first 45, all the way down however many we need to. Last year we had 4 students out of the 45 who for a variety of reasons decided not to go to college, and so 4 of the alternates got the full scholarship. If you're an alternate and you don't get a scholarship, we're going to give you $100 anyway, just to help defray some expenses. So obviously we have a lot of fundraisers in order to raise in excess of $45,000 in a year. We have Gloucester Township Day coming up June 3rd. We hope to see everybody there. That's right here at the park. We'll have, next weekend on Saturday, we'll have a 5K, and that also is going to start and end at the Township Park. There are some flyers. They're bright green in color, and I'm sorry, Gloucester Township Day is June 2nd. I had the wrong, but it's the first Saturday in June. And this is the flyer for the fun run. Any of you who are interested, if you don't think you can do the full 5K or have a 1-mile walk. And all the proceeds from all of those activities goes directly back to the students. None of the people on this committee make any money. This is entirely a volunteer group. And a number of those people are here tonight. I just want to acknowledge their names quickly, and then we'll get into the drawing. Harry Moore is our chairperson. Maybe as I call your name, if you're here, you just stand up, and we'll hold any acknowledgement. Our mayor, Dave Mayer, is our honorary chairperson. Judy Weiserth is our secretary. Chris Disick is the treasurer. Other members of the committee are Judy Calabria, Courtney Carr, Debbie Carr, Mackenzie Carr, Chief Harry Earl is on our committee, Bill Fagan, Orlando Mercado, our council president, also on the committee, Patty Price, Jasmine Robinson, Chris Royal, Michelle Traeger, Louise Tychek, and Debbie Wolf. And So a number of people are here tonight. I also have to acknowledge that we had a sad situation this year on our committee. Two very long-time and hard-working members of our committee had very recently passed away, and I just want to acknowledge Sandy Love and Judy Gore for all their work over many, many years. Thank you. Okay, so at this point, we're going to start with the drawing, and we'll have, Orlando, will you start with us? Okay, we're going to start pulling ping pong balls. What we're going to do is we're going to read the number, and then I'm going to try to not mispronounce the name. The first number is 313. 313, I'm going to see if I can find the right distance here for my glasses, but that's Alexandra Rice from Timber Creek. Alexandra here? If you're here, please let us know, okay?
238.
Next number is 238. 238 is Alexa McKenzie from Timber Creek. Number 215 is
Taylor Marine.
Taylor Marine from Highland.
276.
Number 276. 276 is Suletha from Timber Creek. They sent a letter to all the kids saying maybe I'll improve your chances, get a little bit of good luck if you are here. So I'm hoping we do get some kids who are here. Number 115. 115 is Dylan Elliott from Timber Creek. You just know him, okay. That's perfectly okay. You can cheer if you know the person or if you are the person. Number 20. 20 is Bella. Is she here? Bella here? Okay, Bella Basika from Highland. Congratulations.
334.
334 is, this print is hard for me. Isaiah Sanders from Timber Creek. Number 294. 294 is David from Highland. Next one is 95. Number 95 is Calvin Denton from Triton. Number 279. 279 is Thaddeus Hornick from Timber Creek. $274. Getting a lot of 200s here. 274 is Zachary Nicello from Highland.
Get 5, I'll do it.
Number 404.
Wow.
Christian Wells from Timber Creek. Number 32. 32 is Sage Brown from Timber Creek. Daniel DeLuca from Timber Creek. Number 383 is Emily 2 from Timber Creek.
166.
Number 166. Number 166 is Sarah Henry from Timber Creek. She's got band, but her mom is here. Number 400. 400 is Naona Watkins from Highland. Number 180 is Sky Hunt from Timber Creek. Number 152 is Caitlin Graves from Timber Creek. Number 145 is Angelica Gonzalez from Timber Creek. A lot of people are counting on you. Number 52 is Stephen Cherry from Triton. Mm-hmm. Number 331 is Eric Saylor from Timber Creek. Number 278 is Cole Oba from Highland. Number 129 is Skylar Foster from Triton. Number 59 is Sarah Carnegie from Timber Creek. Sarah here? Number 342. We have a winner. 342 is Victoria Scarville from Highland. Congratulations.
Good casinos tonight.
Absolutely. 191. And that is
This will be 28.
Jake Kidman, Timber Creek. Number 368 is Alexis Stetzer from Triton. $124 is Lil Flight from Highland. Number 239 is Casey McLaren from Highland. Number 414 is
No, you can leave it open.
Brenna Wollstone from Triton. Number 108 is El Haj Drum from Highland. Number 93 is Isabella Duoka from Timber Creek. Number 101 is Dilks from Highland. Number 205 is Xavier Rand from Highland. Got one caught in your sleeve also.
Danny, you have one in your sleeve.
Keep the 150. Number 150 is Megan Graham from Timber Creek.
218.
Number 218, and that is Harry Malcolm from Timber Creek. Number 26. 26 is Taylor Braun from Triton. Number 234. 234 is Christian McCarville from Highland. 106, and that is Ryan Doherty from Timber Creek. That was the 40th one. We have 5 more for 1,000, and then we'll have 10 alternates. Number 235 is Laura Custco from Holland.
86.
Number 86. 86 is Frank DeCaro from Timber Creek. 168. 168 is Brandon Hall from Triton. Number 34 is Delaney Burke from Triton. This one is now the 45th scholarship. 158. Number 158 is Abdul Hanan from Highland. Now we're going to pull the 10 alternates, and as I said earlier, these students may or may not be able to get a scholarship from us, but they will at least get $100 if they do not end up with a scholarship. Number 407, that's Alexandra Williams from Timber Creek. Number 287 is Jessica Paparoa from Triton. Next one is 11. 11 is Orlando Askey from
We're doing 10.
10.
Number 35 is David Burns from Triton. That's Brian Crown from Ireland. Okay, that was the first 5 alternates. We've got 5 more to go. Number 80. 80 is Selena Davis from Timber Creek. Number 257. 257 is Mustafa from Timber Creek. Number 160 is Devin Harris from Timber Creek. Number 155 is Kelly's Hamilton from Highland. This is the last one?
Last one.
This is number 256. And 256 is Dominic Martin from Timber Creek. All the winners will be notified by mail, and we do appreciate your patience tonight. I know there are a lot of other things on the agenda, but I do appreciate your attention. It's an opportunity for us to recognize these students publicly. We will also acknowledge them on Gloucester Township Day, the first Saturday in June, which I believe I was told is June 2nd. So we hope to see you, and if you're a runner, we hope to see you Saturday at the fun run. You can go online to our website, www.gtdsc.org. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Thank you, Mr. Hollingshead. Dr. Hollingshead.
Thank you.
We will now have our first public portion. This public portion is for agenda items only. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand, and you'll be called upon. Yes, sir. Good evening.
I'll try to get that because I have not tonight.
Sir, can I have your name? No, I don't.
You want me to swear me in? Okay.
No, I just need your name.
I'm messing with you a little bit. I got a little sense of humor, but it's a little heated tonight, okay?
My name's
Address? Your
My
address?
address?
Yes.
1070, Tuesday, Lower Springs, New Jersey. Can I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to address the issue of the property located at Block 840, 12.202, 1495 Chesaning Road.
Mr. Little, before you continue, there is a public hearing for that ordinance. You can reserve your comments for that time. There's a public hearing where there is no time limit for it.
Okay?
Okay? Is that fine?
That's fine. If you would just allow me to proceed just with one thing, I'd just like to get on public record tonight, that's all, to
Okay.
address the council. Can you hand that to me?
Thank you.
Just to expedite this one issue, since you are allowing me to address the other issues in open session. What this young lady is presenting to the members of council is documentation on the current address of the town, which is known as a forum located at 15 Chesaning Road. This forum is in the township of Gloucester. And at the planning board meeting, it was revealed to me that, in fact, that this forum has not been recognized as a historic area of Gloucester Township, and it is one of the last-known forums that we have here. So what I produced to council is documentation from the last-known owner of the forum, Ms. Irwin, tonight. She was willing to put it on record and make the town people aware that this forum is located in Gloucester Township. And in fact, and it has been passed down as still in a working form as we speak. So I'd like to put that forward and have council accept that.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you all for your patience.
Ms. Carr.
Joanne Carr, Timber Birch.
I have 2 items. One, I didn't touch it.
Joanne, can you see if that's working so folks?
Come on. You give it a second, it'll come on.
Testing, there it goes.
There you go.
I'm gonna hold it. You have,
I don't think that might
the
work.
thing about the open space tax levy. I have a question about that. I know every time we bring something up, Tom will say that we voted on it in 2006. Why is it up again now?
The open space, each year as a body, we determined this was overwhelmingly approved by the voters in Gloucester Township. Tom, is that 2001?
Yeah, it was actually 2001, and it was a referendum. It was passed overwhelmingly, and it allows for the raising of up to 2 cents each year, and that is for recreation, open space, maintenance. There's a list of different items that would cover.
Yeah, you hope to expect to get over $800,000 from it. Do you use it all every year, or is there ever any leftover?
Pretty much, you want me to respond?
Yes, go ahead.
Pretty much we use it, well, I would say we use it up, yes, because some of it is used for debt service for the hockey rinks that were installed. Some of it will be going towards the turf fields that were funded fully from the open space, not from the general fund, not from capital. That came from the open space.
Okay. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to ask was, let me find that one.
Joanne, before you proceed, can the folks in the back hear her on the microphone? Yeah, that mic's not working anymore.
We can't hear you guys either. No, we can't.
Your mics are...
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay, the second thing I wanted to ask about was, you wanted to see about getting counsel for property tax. I don't have it exactly. Is the council
Property tax appeal?
property tax appeal? Is the council for our tax office, or is it for our residents?
That's for our tax office.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Shaquille Laddie. I live at 1439 Bittersweet Drive, Blackwood. I want to talk about the budget. It seems like me and my wife been here a couple years now, and the taxes already went up, I think, 2 times. Are you guys for us, or are you just going to listen to whatever Mayor says? Hello? Oh, one more thing. Well, I got a couple more things, actually.
Okay.
You guys have 2 jobs because you probably have a main job and this is your second job and you get paid for it. So you really don't care about the taxes going up because you have a second job to cover that. Everyone here cares about the taxes. Me and my wife have 1 job, so that means we have to pay the taxes with her in my job. You have this job that pays for it. We pay you guys, but you're not helping us. You guys are making the town more rich than the people that live here. And I read like some of your bios on the township. Ms. Stubbs, I think you're like a principal, right?
Yeah.
So you're helping for the kids, right?
Absolutely.
So people here, maybe not here, elected you as council to help us.
Absolutely.
But if you keep raising the taxes, how are you helping us? Everyone's going to leave the town. One more thing. The gentleman that was here earlier, he gave out scholarships to 45 kids. Great thing. But if you keep raising taxes, it won't be getting no kids to give it to. We're all going to be gone. And it's just going to be you guys. Every time I watch TV, when I get off, I see Mayor talking about, oh, we saved $2 million by recycling. Where's that money at? You guys, open space preserve, I can't say it right. You talked about you spent it on turf. What do we need turf for? Grass goes fine. We're literally wasting our money. I drive around Gloucester Township, and everyone knows about this. You guys built a park on Summerdale Road. We can't even... One more thing. I heard this was a rumor. I don't know if it's true, so correct me if I'm wrong. That little shed that you call a bathroom out there cost $2 million? I could have bought one from Home Depot and put it there for you. Can you correct me with that $2 million to make that bathroom?
May I address some of the things you brought up, Mr. Larry?
Yes, sir. I'll wait for you.
Welcome. How are you? You talk about the bathroom out here in the park?
The shed outside, yes. It's as big as my kitchen.
The bathroom did not cost $2 million.
Well, okay.
Okay, did not cost $2 million. Back to your first comment, when you implied that...
Everyone wants to know, how much did it cost?
Mr. Cardis, do you have the dollar amount on that?
I don't have the exact dollar amount.
I don't even want exact. You can round it up.
I don't have the exact dollar amount, but I would say approximately $80,000.
$80,000.
That was a prefab concrete.
I can get a house bill for $80,000. Maybe not in Gloucester Township because taxes too high. Anywhere else, I can mostly get that bill. But can you answer other questions?
The assumption, Mr. Larry, that we don't care.
Laddie. Almost like a latte, but put an I before the E.
Laddie, okay. That we don't care, that we have second jobs.
This is your second job. You get paid for this.
Reside here, sir. Okay? And it does not, there are services that we have to provide to our residents.
What services?
What services?
What are you doing? There's nothing fun to do out here. You guys voted for an outlet. We don't even get taxes from the outlet. You don't even get to save money.
No, Mr. Lady, that's incorrect.
Well,
That is incorrect. Right now, no, that is incorrect.
okay, well, you tell us then, since we're...
That parcel of land, prior to the outlets being here, we were receiving less than $5,000 a year on that parcel
I
of
pay
land.
more than that.
Mr. Lady, if you're going to let me, please respond.
It's Laddie. I'm not a lady. I'm a man. But you can go ahead and finish. Laddie. You can say Laddie. That's fine. Good.
The parcel of land was farmland assessed. That parcel of land brought in less than $5,000 a year.
Okay.
The outlets, premium outlets, the developers of it purchased that land. They are paying the full freight on taxes on that parcel of land.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, they had a pilot, a payment in lieu of taxes, where it's increments that they pay 0, 30, 50, 70, 90, and then 100%. They're in their third year of paying taxes. At the end of it, at the end of paying their taxes, they will be the largest taxpayer in Gloucester Township.
So, wait. So, since they're going to be the largest, why don't you lower our taxes?
Sir, there are services that we have to provide to the residents of our township, and each year, those services go up incrementally.
You're right. Okay, I have a question for everybody. Are you guys happy with the services that you're providing? It doesn't seem like you're providing that are making the residents happy. But this is going to be my last question. Gloucester Township is not Haddonfield. We're not all millionaires here. So actually care about the people here. In Haddonfield, at least you can walk down to their little nice thing. They got restaurants and everything. We don't have none of that. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is my last thing this time. We have more apartments, I feel like, in Blackwood than any other town. You should get many taxes from them. Not us. I live in a townhouse and I pay almost $6,000 in taxes. I can take 10 paces in my backyard and that's it. But you want to tax me for a full house. I read the other day someone owns a 1,000 square foot house. They pay $8,000 in taxes. That's outrageous. But you probably own like a 4,500 square feet house. You all probably do because you guys got 2 jobs. You guys come up here and just do whatever mayor says and then go home. You started the council meeting with a 15-minute closed session about workers' comp. None of you guys look hurt to me. But that's my last thing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder, this is for agenda items only. That could have been done at the second public portion. Miss, in the back there with the glasses. I'm sorry I have to point.
How about the roof? No more taxes.
Hi, I'm Lillian Berg. I live at 3 Rosewood Court in Rosegate. I love my development, and I gotta say...
Ms. Burke, I'm sorry to cut you off. Is this on an agenda item?
Tell me what, I don't have an agenda.
Agenda
Is this
item?
taxes?
No, that's not on the agenda. There's a second public portion
I'm
where
sorry.
you can address any item, and you'll be the first one I call up, Ms. Burke.
Okay, is there more agendas? I didn't get one. Can I just say, I've lived here for 14 years.
Ms. Burke, is it possible I can have you at the second public portion?
I gotta say, I'm only because I have to be at work at 5:30 in the morning, of course. I really can't stay for the whole thing. I just have to say, I vote every year. I've been living in New Jersey for 14 years. We lived in Valley Brook. Our taxes then were $8,000 in Valley Brook. I lived at an end, and I got, like the gentleman said, my backyard was full of golf balls. So we decided to stay in there because my son has autism, and this district was fantastic, and I said, I'm not moving out of this district because the school district was wonderful, and we stayed and moved to Rosegate. We're paying, no lie, $10,000 a year. $10,000, I mean, I've got a nice big backyard. I'm not saying I live in a small property, but what I'm saying to you is, I love where I live. I want to stay in Gloucester Township. My husband and I both I'm in my 50s, my husband's in 60. We can't retire because we have to send our kids to college, but the reality is, nobody can afford to live here anymore. And I'm not disrespectful. I voted for some of you up here, and I got to say, I'm involved in the school district. I'm the homeschool president at Highland. I was involved in every school event. What I'm telling you is people are not happy. They can't afford to live here. We have I have a friend whose development has so many foreclosures and abandoned homes. Kmart, why are we not bringing, like Target, why are we not bringing good restaurants to our area? Why do we have to go down to what is that, Cross Key Road for good restaurants? Deptford, why are we leaving our own area and paying a ridiculous amount of money, and there's nothing in Blackwood except abandoned homes? And I'm sad. I'm very sad at what's going on in our township. And I don't mean any disrespect, but we have got to take our city back. We have to. It's not right. You all live here. I'm hoping you all live here.
We all live here.
I'm hoping you all live.
We all live here.
But I want you to know, this is just, I would love to see all these people when I'm hoping they were all here for election time. But what I'm saying, it's just not right. You have to think of the people that live here and want to stay here, but they can't. I mean, my husband for the first time said tonight, we need to move. We have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful home, and I will never get what I have put into that home, because now you're building an apartment building, you're building, what, I just got a paper, something about townhouses across from St. Agnes. They're not paying the taxes, we are. So what's going to happen when everybody who's here pays taxes and you're left with all the low-income housing? I'm sorry, but you've got to help the people that want to stay here. I want you to really think long and hard, because one day we're not going to be here, and either are you.
Ma'am, before I call upon you, is this for an agenda item? Folks, we have an agenda here that I have to follow. We have a public, it's all right, I'm going to need you to sit down for a second.
You asked me a question.
No, I didn't ask you a question.
You said, is this an agenda item? I'm asking about taxes.
Sir.
Is that an agenda item?
You can speak at the taxes on the second public hearing, and I will, the public hearing, anyone who wishes to speak will have an opportunity to speak at the second public hearing. Please allow us to continue with our agenda. Anyone who wishes to speak will be speaking at the second public hearing. Is there any other agenda items? Is there any other agenda item? Okay.
So I do have an informational question.
Okay.
Okay?
On the agenda.
Well, let me ask the question, then you can decide whether you want to answer it. All right, my name's John Campanella, 213 Downing Road, Somerdale, New Jersey. 8 years ago, I won't mention the governor's name because it nauseates me, but we were told that there was a 2% cap on property taxes. So can you explain how every year we pay more than 2%?
Sir?
Can you explain how that works? That's all.
Sir, all right.
And I think everyone would like to hear that.
Sir, when we have the second public hearing, you'll be the first one I call upon. Sir, do you have a... Sir?
Council? Good evening, Council. I just have two questions. Both are related to the agenda. First question is, I'd like to ask if Council would please publicly announce when the public meeting is for the discussion of the zoning changes that are mentioned on the first page as ordinances.
Okay, the public meetings, there was a planning board meeting that took place on March 27th, and individuals that were notified that were within 200 feet of the property. That hearing took place March 27th. We have two ordinances today, which there's a second reading and a public hearing for each of those ordinances.
Okay, but when is that going to be held?
Today.
Specifically, you mentioned to the woman that got up to speak, or the first person that got up to speak, that they could speak at a meeting. Is that tonight, but later tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
But your question is an agenda item, well, it's a public hearing.
Okay, so my agenda question is about the R-1804-098, about the execution of the agreement between the Township of Gloucester and Blau & Blau. I'm going to guess that this has to do with the hiring or the signing of a contract with a company that handles disposition of township-owned property through eminent domain or due to seizure from taxes. Is that correct?
Mr. Carlemare?
This,
It's our special tax appeal.
Correct. That's special for the Special Tax Appeal Council. That's what this is. For the Special Council for Tax Appeals.
Okay, so this doesn't have anything to do with the discussion that I had read about the township having to deal with an overwhelming number of foreclosed homes? No, it does not. All right, thank you, Council.
Thank you very much. Mr. Polidoro.
Good evening, Council. Ray Polidoro from the historic village of Ariel.
Good evening, Ray. Ray, is that microphone working? All right.
All right, I'll speak a little closer. On the agenda is the second public portion. Many people want to speak tonight, and as we did back in 2016, regardless of the time, will you waive the time limit
Absolutely.
for the second public portion? However, the last time you did so, you picked out a gentleman and he was the last person to speak. If you're waiving the time limit, would you please waive it entirely so that everyone has a chance to speak?
Anyone that wishes to speak during the second public portion will be heard.
And if I may make a suggestion, there'll be another meeting where you will be talking about the budget on the 23rd. Maybe a change of venue would be in order. Maybe Timber Creek High School would be appropriate. There are people out in the parking lot, there are people out in the hallway who wish to speak, who wish to see you, and maybe council would consider a bigger venue where you get to see everyone and get to hear everybody. I think you should consider it for the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for any agenda items? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Proclamation.
Alcohol Awareness Month, whereas excessive drinking is responsible for more than 4,300 deaths among underage youth each year, and whereas alcohol is the most commonly used addictive substance in the United States. Nearly 10 million young people ages 12 to 20 report that they've consumed alcohol in the past 30 days. Young people who begin drinking before age 15 are 4 times more likely to develop alcohol dependence than those who begin drinking at age 21. And whereas drinking by persons under the age of 21 is linked to 189,000 emergency room visits, and whereas the typical American will see 100,000 beer commercials before he or she turns 18. Kids who drink are more likely to become victims of violent crimes and to be involved in alcohol-related traffic crashes and have serious school-related problems. Supportive family environment is associated with lower rates of alcohol use for adolescents. And kids who have conversations with their parents and learn a lot about the dangers of alcohol and drug use are 50% less likely to use alcohol and drugs than those who don't have such conversation. Therefore, I, Dave Mayer, Mayor of the Township of Gloucester, and Orlando Mercado, President of Gloucester Township Council, now join the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence Incorporated and the Camden County Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, and do hereby proclaim that April 2018 is Alcohol Awareness Month in our community. As leaders, we are also called upon for all citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, schools, and colleges to support efforts that will provide early education about alcoholism and addiction and increase support for individuals and families coping with alcoholism. Through these efforts, together we can provide hope, help, and healing for those in our community who are facing challenges with alcohol use and drug abuse.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Bids, Block 9801, Lot 1, stormwater piping and head wall replacement, Edgewater Court bank stabilization, Lincoln Drive stormwater piping and head wall replacement, Pasadena Drive stormwater piping and head wall replacement, Spring Hill Drive stormwater outfall repairs, 2017 NJDOT Trust Fund Bicycle Path Health and Fitness Trail, Phase 11.
I entertain a motion to accept the bids.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have our second ordinances. It's second reading, and there will be a public hearing for the following two ordinances. Ordinance 0-18-03, amended ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-03-03, land development adopting inclusionary affordable apartment overlay 1A-apartment zoning district for 1495 Chews Landing Road, Block 8401, Lot 1202. This is part of the Township's affordable housing element and fair share plan. It's part of a settlement agreement with the Fair Share Housing Center, where this settlement agreement of litigation identifies that there will be 72 units, residential units, which 11 of them will be reserved for family rental, low and moderate income households, as defined by the Council on Affordable Housing. We will now open up the public portion. This here, up, sir. Up again, sorry. Mr. Little. You swear me back in.
Sorry, folks, I'll try to be as brief as I can with this one also. May I begin?
Yes, sir.
For the people that were here for the planning board meeting, I'll read this out quite expeditiously so you understand what happened at the last meeting. On March 27th, 2018, I attended a public hearing at the planning board in reference to ordinance 01803 pursuant to the municipal land use law concerning the land use at 1495 Chews Landing Road. It was explained by your township engineer that the planning board will review the ordinance change on the recommendations of the township council. It was also explained that the planning board had a constitutional obligation to accept a change to litigation with the state of New Jersey in a pending case. A unanimous decision was made to adopt the change. However, Chairman, if I say this correctly, I hope I don't get his name wrong, Kirchhoff, does that say correctly in the planning board, Mr. Kirchhoff?
Crickham?
If I'm saying it correctly, I apologize for messing up his name. Put it on record that over 200 residents were in attendance at a public portion of this meeting and had spoken in the objection to the ordinance. The public was advised to direct their questions to council. Good job. I already, at the beginning of this, unfortunately, went out of order. I put in front of you documentation of the farm at 1501 Chews Landing Road established an 100-year-old history, which you all conceded to that would be appropriate, that would be recognized on public record. For the record, that location of the farm is 200 feet within the partial at 1495 Chews Landing Road. Mr. Orlando Marchano, how do you say your last name, sir?
Mercado.
Mercado? I'm going to direct this question to you, but everybody on council may answer this if you feel it's more appropriate to do so. Would it be fair to say that the council has Gloucester Township master plan in its best interest in the Township of Gloucester?
Do we have the best interest of municipal plan? Yes.
Mr. Little?
Sir?
I'd say yes to that question, too.
Thank you.
400 people that say no, it's like,
Mr. Little?
Sir?
I respect your ability to stand at the microphone and address us, and we'd like to respond to you. I would just ask that this not be, that everybody respect your time. Okay?
Sir, yes, sir. I just would like to get to this as fast as possible. I'm sure a lot of the residents have other issues that they have to address. May I ask, is it the desire of the council to limit the development of already overcrowded schools, traffic congestion, and pollution consistent with the mode of driving public interest in that open space acquisition? Anybody like to answer that question?
Mr. Little, I work for the Gloucester Township Public School District, so I'm very familiar.
Folks, 1 second. Not to be late by the council, I'd like to get all this on the record, so that down the road for this, it will be a public record, and we'll be able to look it up. The more you interrupt these gentlemen and ladies, the less we'll have to accomplish on some of the issues, and I apologize if I'm interfering. Thank you. Sir?
Thank you, Mr. Little. Our enrollment in Gloucester Township Public Schools K through 8 is approximately 6,400 students. About a decade ago, there was 8,000 students in our schools. This plan development, when you say overcrowding of 72 units, I live in Valley Brook. In Valley Brook, there's 1,300 units in Valley Brook. There's less than 100 students that attend school from Valley Brook. So the overcrowding issue, sir, that's incorrect as far as for our schools.
Well, I hate to debate the issue with you, sir, but I'm sure the data that we like to reflect with the teachers union and so forth and so on that's been approached with me might conflict with some of the things that we're talking about. So I don't want to debate it with you because I don't have those facts and figures in front of me. So may I continue?
Absolutely.
Okay. My case in point is the lot 1495 Truesdale Road is located directly alongside one of the last owned farms in Gloucester Township. I believe the facts and circumstances that were revealed at the last planning board needing support why this construction should not be allowed to take place at this location. Mentioned in the record was traffic congestion, overcrowded schools, public safety, tax increases, encroachment to historic farm, and property values. I believe the residents understand we have to comply with the constitutional fair housing element, and I'm not saying don't build at this location. Would council be opposed to relocation of this project?
Sir, we have a agreement with Fair Share Housing Council that we have to adhere to.
I understand. My question is not that, sir.
It's not township-owned property, though. It's privately owned property.
I'm glad you brought that, Mr. Carlin.
And the person who owns it intervened in the fair share litigation that the township initiated, and part of his intervention was to argue with the court that he could produce 11 affordable housing units and meet the zoning requirement. He's a private landowner, purchased it from what I understand, the individual that owned that large tract. I could be mistaken. But he purchased it with the intent of building and meeting the zoning requirements. He intervened in the court. He intervened in the litigation and did an objection. As part of that litigation resulted in his proposal, which he argued to the court that it was realistic, that he could develop 72 units with 11 affordable housing units. And the court approved it. The Fair Share Housing Center, which is a major player in the litigation with the township, agreed to it. And that's what went before the planning board, and that's what's in this ordinance.
Okay. I have read your submission. I did put it on public record. You were up there to attend the meeting. I apologize. I brought something up without you being there. I personally don't like doing that because you're not able to answer anything I had said. So with that said, you said that, which is correct, that property that we're talking about is privately owned by a contractor. However, I would like to bring it to your attention of a New Jersey Supreme Court ruling. In the 6-1 decision, the Borough of Mount Laurel agreed to take over a land development in Newtown from a developer and stop the proposed development below the Open Space Act forever. So it's a constitutional law to be done by the Township of Gloucester to take back that tract of land if they deem it to be in an area that is overcrowded, public interest. Outweighing any of the needs to the public's interest there. There's also, like I said, encroaches on a 100-year-old farm that can never be replaced.
So am I correct that you're saying the township would have to file the condemnation action, eminent domain, to take the property and then pay fair market value for the property to the property owner? Am I correct that that's what would happen?
Yes, you are. You're an attorney, I am not. But from what I understand, from my research, that would be the appropriate action unless the persons of that fair, like you said, the fair market value, were to be given a property of fair or equal value in the Township of Gloucester, which I would recommend that the area alongside Route 42 where the old Glendale skating ring used to be, which is now defunct for many, many years. I'm also showing my age by telling you that's where it was. Is a land tract that's more commonly, probably more beneficial to put any type of apartment complex in, whether it be under the subsidies of the Fair Housing Act or whatsoever. It would not be a burden on the public. It would not be a cost factor. It's on a county roadway, a railroad road. which is encroached at a major intersection, and it's also directly across the street from one of our major high schools. So it basically constitutes a better location. I'm not arguing that fact. I'm arguing the fact that, in essence, this is the last farm we have in this town. It's over 100 years old. It's never going to be replaced. I don't know how many of the residents lived here most of their life, but I have. And they pop up left and right, now they're going left and right. So if you're looking for a justification to take it back, you're talking about 5 acres. You're not talking 100 acres. You're not talking 20 acres. You're not talking land parcels. The Borough of Mount Laurel, from what I understand from the case law, took back a larger section of this town, of their town, that was already underdeveloped by this contractor. So with that said, it is a matter of public record that everything's on there. At this time, I would respectfully request that the council consider an act of an eminent domain in the property of Block 8401, 12.02, known as 1495 Cheers Landing Road, owned by, according to records, Michael Bocato Jr., based for the Township of Gloucester. Let's say
Can I ask you a question? Mr. Little?
Sir.
The prior owner of the property, the subject block and lot, they're here, right?
The prior owner?
Well, the owner of it who recently sold it, right?
No, the last owner was deceased.
Okay, but I thought you referenced somebody.
A family member, the last known family member, is sitting here tonight with me, yes.
The property was sold to the current builder, correct?
As far as I understand, yes, sir.
Why wasn't preservation on the minds of the seller as opposed to putting it in the hands of a builder?
In all due respect, I can't speak for the past persons that may or may not have done this. They're not here to defend themselves, deny, or apply. What I'm saying to you is that we already have an apartment complex existing touching this farm. It's a senior citizen complex, which I believe to this date has not been fully filled up to capacity. And all I'm saying is that at this time, your argument, my argument is I can't talk to the people of the past that did this. Maybe it was a bad move. Maybe you and I wouldn't have done something like this. My concern is this. It is an existing farm in this town. I think that the people would probably agree that a historic structure in this town, namely a farm, is a valuable asset to secure and keep that way in this town. And I'm not saying... And I'm not saying do not build and comply with the state of New Jersey's rules. I understand the existing legislation is passed down. There's a mandate that says we have to put these things in. I fully understand that. I fully understand the planning board's synopsis of why they had to pass the act. I just think that there's better locations in the Township of Gloucester. We have the Nike base. We have plenty of places in this town that can be more redeveloped. We have Lakeland complexes within walking distance and social services. There's just better locations. So I ask you, I know this is private property. Would the owner of the property be consulted with council to maybe make an agreement of the trade for property in a different location of town? I don't have the answers for you. My obligation tonight is to try to save a farm in this town that's been here for over 100 years. If you would help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
May I pose a question? I'd like to pose a question. I don't know the answer to this. Then I'm going to ask everybody. I'm going to ask everybody. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody if you can't. If you can you please keep your voices down so that everybody can hear what we're saying? Sir, you've had your time at the microphone earlier, but I've heard you yell multiple times. So if you expect to hear me, then please be quiet. Yes. Yes, I am.
Well, if you have a microphone, so you should use it.
Okay. Well, I'm leaning forward. So my question is this: if we pass the ordinance tonight, does that foreclose the opportunity to seek a replacement property if the owner of this property was willing to think about exchanging this property for another?
So there's probably two ways. What you suggest is the township taking an adversary position to go in for eminent domain or condemnation. When you do that, you have to take the property for a public purpose. That has to get approved by the courts to take it for a public purpose if the property owner resists. When that happens, there has to be an appraisal done on the property. The process that it goes through is the use that the builder proposes to put to it. So if that builder spent $2 million for vacant ground and now has a proposal to build apartments, then the value of that ground goes significantly higher on an appraisal best use scenario. So if a township or a municipality comes in and tells the owner, we're going to take it, unfortunately, perhaps that conversation should have taken place before that owner decided to sell it to this builder, which township was not part of that. Once the builder owned it, then the builder has a greater interest and a greater value because he's got a site plan or a proposal to go through, so that makes that ground significantly more dollars. So when a municipal government goes in to say, we want to take it, we have to show that we're taking it for a public purpose, otherwise the courts don't approve the condemnation litigation. So that's an adversarial way. The other way is to go to the builder and say, we want to negotiate to buy it. Well, the same scenario is going to happen. That builder is a businessman, and he's going to look at it, and he's going to say, I'm going to build 72 market rate, not low income. I'm going to build 72 market rate, which has a greater value, and I'm going to allow 11 of those units, which they usually build a little bit smaller, that's how they qualify for low income, in among those 72. So therefore, this $2 million investment might be worth $15 million. I don't know. I'm not a real estate appraiser. But that's what the township would face if it was trying to negotiate where the guy is already sitting on that property. So it's not as easy as you make it sound.
I'm not trying to make it easy, Counselor. I'm just bringing it to your attention and everybody's attention. What's the historic value of a farm in this township of Gloucester that would be worth approaching this said developer? You've already passed the act by law. You've already done everything you have to pass the ordinance. It's already been approved. The site plan, as far as I know, has not been provided to you to see what type of apartments he's actually going to have as egresses, the amount of public safety and so forth and so on. That has not been done that I know of. However, isn't it worth the people's request to at least negotiate with them so it's not encroaching on one of our last known forums that it gets put up for public housing? It's never going to come back. Cherry Hill's done it. Mount Lawrence, for a case law, the state Supreme Court. I think the Township of Gloucester, with its might of what we have, would even approach this situation to fight for something that I believe the public would like to see happen. Okay? That's it. When she goes in a vacant lot, nobody's going to take care of it. I don't know if I don't. Okay? I don't know who takes care of it. I don't know. So, a historic farm, vacant, because this young lady's not going to be here, and then what's going to happen then? We're going to make it a parking lot? Is this two apartment complexes, one on either side, going to have a money value on the side? It's not economics 101. I understand the developer, maybe go with one of the family members. But look at this room. I don't know, with this many people, with this many so everything. Let's do something good. Show us the people that stay away from the right for a farm that's in our town. Yes, there's a lot of taxes. Yes, the place that has a contract. Yes, there are issues. I'm not saying nothing. Wake up, folks. Wake up. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I just want to make one correction. Procacci builder, who owns that site now, that intervened in the fair share plan that's scheduled to come up in May, when he came to court, he met several times with community development because what he wanted to put there, we didn't accept initially. We compromised, we downsized it, we created larger open space and to where it made best suited for the township for that spot. When he finally agreed is when he signed off and everyone signed off on the fair share plan that went before the planning board and is now before this governing body.
I understand the township has been fighting its journalists reluctancy to put up with ordinance. I understand that. I saw the ordinances, I saw what happened. I've seen the records on the litigation. I followed your litigation, sir. I'm just asking you, as counsel, you have the power. I know there's money, there's always money values, there's why everybody's sitting here tonight for their taxes, has to do that. Okay? So, I'll leave it with this. At the last meeting, it seems a little less appropriate, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few of the one. The way developer doesn't need to be for reform. I'm sorry for the people your time.
Anyone else for this particular ordinance? Ma'am? No, I'm sorry. Ma'am, is this for the ordinance? For this?
No.
Okay.
He was only supposed to have 5 minutes.
Sorry.
My name is Denise Coyne, 1060 Chews Landing Road. My name is Denise Coyne, 1060 Chews Landing Road. I just want to know, like, the township's governed by a master plan, correct?
You have a master plan, yes?
Yes. And we have a master plan for a reason, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, I read the master plan that was adopted 19 years ago, and it says in there that 19 years ago we should have been looking to redevelop, not develop, correct?
Well, that plan is constantly changed. There's different things that are added to it.
Okay, well, from what I read...
Because that plan is 19 years old.
Okay, but assumptions were made. That's one of the main assumptions of the master plan of this township, was 19 years ago that the township was built up and that we should look to redevelop and not develop. And 19 years later, there's been a whole lot of development that has passed in the past 19 years. A whole lot of developments went up since then, and you're still developing. Like, I don't understand. And then the other thing in the master plan I read said that you have to consider the traffic inflows and outflows in the township. And putting a 72-unit apartment building at a traffic light by 2 schools, an elementary school and a middle school, on an already busy road does not make sense. I don't understand how that could even be thought of. I mean, it's a traffic nightmare now. Add 72 apartment buildings at the intersection, it's a traffic horrible nightmare. So I don't understand why we have a master plan if nobody follows it.
Regarding this ordinance, sir? Regarding this ordinance? Okay. Good evening.
Joseph Barbuto, 6 Cameron Court. Okay, here, one question. You're going to put, this developer wants to put 72 units in that spot, which is 5 acres. Why doesn't council go to him and renegotiate and say to him, well, look, instead of putting 72 units, put 8 or 9 custom-built homes, okay? At custom-built homes, you want to bring in a value of about $10,000 to $12,000 per home, which gives the township about $100,000 to $150,000 a year just in real estate taxes. Less traffic because you only got 8 or 9 homes. Less kids go to school because you only got 8 to 9 homes. Think about that one. Go to the developer and ask him to do that and see what he says. He's still going to get his money back because he probably paid peanuts for the ground anyway.
All right. Thank you for your comments, sir. Is there anyone else for this ordinance? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Yost, 23 North Brookline Drive, Broadmoor West.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. My comment is the discussion that was just had about the parcel that's in discussion. My question is, I looked at the 2006 revision of the master plan, and at the time, the adjoining lots were changed to park and recreation. They were park and recreation, excuse me. But that particular parcel, the 5-acre parcel, was designated senior citizen residential. And if you look at, if I'm correct, the farm that you're talking about is on one side of the 5-acre lot. On the other side, the 12.01 is owned by the state of New Jersey, and it's designated park recreation, just like the rest of the space that is to the rear of that lot, which formerly belonged to Slim's Ranch, the 130-plus acres that became our preserved area, open space, and park. And my question is, back in '06, when it was the revision to the master plan, and it was suggested that that 5-acre lot would be designated senior citizen residential, why did the builder oppose that at that time? If he, you know, for the records, Mr. Procacci was the active participant in the 130-acre deal for open space and preservation.
For the Slim's property?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and it was also, he was also, I assume it's his parcel, the parcel that is 12.01, was also owned by him and sold to the state of New Jersey for $1 million, or it was, if you look at it, it's a little confusing. You first say that the sale price is $5 million. Then it's $1 million transaction. So then it seems to be taken off of the $5 million transaction that was passed on through to the county in the funding. I don't understand that. I'm not a land use person. That's why I came to this meeting, because here is preserved perfect 5-acre parcel, and I've lived in my home for 36 years, and my understanding was originally Mr. Procacci was going to build 55 and older homes on what was the large parcel of Slim Ranch, and that he was also at some point, I'm assuming it was 5-acre, he was going to build a assisted living building, because I saw on the listing by Piccolo's Realty, which is a local realtor, and he listed it, and it stated on there that the 5-acre lot was up for sale as a vacant parcel, one building. You know, that was what they projected, and that they wanted $950,000 for the parcel. That's when it was listed initially, I think in February 2017. And now, all of a sudden, that parcel went from possibly just being vacant land and available to anyone through a standard listing, and now he is almost seeking, and it sounds like a builder's remedy litigation, and he's going to give us a wonderful deal by proposing that he's willing to take 72 units and provide us with credit for 11 affordable housing. One unit designated very low. What the public may or may not understand is that right now, and it's not firm, but my sense is, and I read as best as I could get the information, that Gloucester Township has to provide over 1,000 units between now and 2025, because like the rest of the state of New Jersey, everyone dropped the ball and didn't keep doing, their fair share. So if you take a look at the big picture of 1,000, and I heard two different numbers at the planning board, so I don't want to quote either one. One might be 1,110 or 1,049, I don't know, or somewhere there. So if we do a little math, and my background is, I'm an educator, but I wasn't a high school math teacher. But the way I see it, let's see, 11 units what percentage of that, of our total responsibility or obligation between now and 2025? Oh, 1%. And then the very low, the 1%, what is that? 1/100th of a percent or 1/10 of a percent that fulfills our obligation? So I think my question would be, why do we want to build 3 buildings, 3 stories, in a very sort of haphazard, we really don't know what the buildings are going to look like. I would assume they'll look something like the Colony, only maybe pared down or not quite as much attention to detail. And if you think about it, I looked at what you have done, for council has done in terms of the senior citizen complex in Lakeland, and those 1-bedroom apartments are 762 square feet. I don't know if any of you have any sense of what a 500 square foot 1-bedroom apartment looks like, and that's the proposed size for, I guess, at least the affordable housing piece. In Center City, which is a very high per square foot cost, you get a studio. And that's what you're proposing, of putting at least maybe 2 adults or an adult and a child in. So my question would be to council is, what happened to the idea of conformity? You know, that area is all parks and recreational with a historic farm, which I view blends in perfectly. And now we want to do something similar to what Atlantic City did to the lady who wouldn't sell, and they built a parking garage over her or around her. So what we're going to have is we're going to have 2 3-story buildings that do we really even have a need? And then we have a historical farm. Then we have a thin lot that is, again, parks and recreation. And then we have a commercial building on the corner of Roosevelt and Shoes Landing. If that is not a big mishmash, and I read the consolidation plan draft that the county presented in your plan, and the way I read it, the idea of quality of life, you know, walkability. Oh, and by the way, the walking score and the transportation score for Shoes Landing in front of that lot, according to Berkshire, is 24 and 27 out of 100, which means it's not very desirable. And you want to put people who you're trying to give them a quality of life, a good environment, and you have them somewhere where there's no public transportation, and you can't even walk, because on that side of the road there aren't any sidewalks. So what do? Put 600 feet of sidewalk that belongs to that lot and have nothing in between, because it's not conforming, including the Colony, all the way to Wawa. From the corner of Roosevelt to Wawa, there is no sidewalks on that side of the street, on side of Shoes Landing Road. So I agree with the gentleman. I think we should really examine what we want to do with that lot. And they pay $13,000 a year property tax for that 5-acre lot, that vacant lot, and the assessed value, I think, is maybe something like $343,000. And I live in a house in Baltimore West, and I pay $9,965 as we speak. I haven't got my own bill. So, you know what? I don't have a lot of sympathy for Mr. Procacci, and my idea is I couldn't find out how long he's owned that parcel, because I tried to track down, you know, that part, and I don't know. But my feeling is he's had it for quite a while.
Ms. Yost, if I can address some of your questions.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your comments. The developer, when he originally, and I don't know Mr. Procacci, but when he talked about he originally wanted to have senior housing there, senior housing prior to the recession that we had was all the rave because they were popping up. It got to a point where it was saturated. They were very attractive to municipalities because it was senior housing. They weren't adding children to the school districts at the time. They paid taxes, and it was a very attractive model for developers to put in different municipalities. When the recession came, that curbed development, not only in our township, but throughout the state. As far as what our core requirements are, Mr. Lechner, Ken, he's our Director of Community Development. Ken, do you have an actual number of what, I'm not sure the numbers that Ms. Jones presented of what our requirements are up until 2025.
It was discussed by Mr. Bach, the engineer, at the planning board meeting of 3/27.
Okay, one moment, Ms. Jones.
Just to clarify that, our total units from now to 2025 under the fair share plan, our total units between now and 2025 under the fair share plan comes to 1,014 units. Now, but wait a second.
That's what our total is, not that we have to get 1,014 more.
Now,
No, that's what I'm talking, no, that's what I said.
Because your statement indicated earlier that we needed to add 1,000 more
No,
units.
we have to meet that obligation by 2025, but that is not only the present obligation or the future obligation, but the Supreme Court said it also encompasses any past obligation that was not met.
Well, just for a very quick little bit of a nutshell of the township, when Mount Laurel fair share housing started in the mid-1980s, and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong on my dates, mid-1980s, Gloucester Township was proactive, filed its first round for substantive certification, meaning we had to go to the new established Council on Affordable Housing and show them how we're going to meet the formula for our fair share in Gloucester Township. We got approved for our first round certification by then COA rules. Then they changed rules, and we had to then apply for, and we did immediately, for a second round certification, which we then hired a professional and submitted our plan, and we got approved for our second round certification, and that we were meeting all our realistic opportunities of how we were going to meet that number. Then rules started changing again, and we filed our third round certification, and that's when Council on Affordable Housing fell apart. They never met. They couldn't come up with rules. Towns were submitting their requests for certification like the Gloucester Township was. We hired a professional. We had our plans in. So when the litigation started by builders against COA and the state, and it ended up in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now ordered that COA doesn't exist unless it resurfaces itself. In the meantime, the Superior Courts in New Jersey, and we're Camden County, is taking over the towns that want their certification approved. Only the towns that had always participated in COA over the years and showed that they were meeting their fair share plan had the opportunity to file what they call a declaratory judgment. We did, July 2015. That gave us an immediate protection against a builder's remedy, and you're probably aware of what that means. It means the builder can't come in and force a township to build low-income housing where they want. So if you had a Pocacci coming in saying, I own this ground, you don't have immunity, I'm putting up 75 low income. No builder can do that. Pocacci initially tried to intervene in the action, so he's owned this ground for a while. If I'm incorrect, I'll stand corrected. I believe in the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, the court denied it. He then continued in his participation with this, and the court allowed his objection to be filed. And then when we started working with Mr. Pocacci, that's when this plan came about. Now, our fair share plan that's been signed off by the Fair Share Housing Center in New Jersey, which is all over New Jersey, by Township as well as Pocacci's attorney, says that we have to meet our number of 1,014 units by 2025. Right. Of that 1,014 units, the actual units, when you factor in our bonuses, comes down to 760 units. Okay. Of those 760 units, we have already met and already exist 400 and some units. So our total number between now and 2025 is 345 units. Of that 345 units, well, these are bonuses. So of our 345, 11 is coming in by Mr. Picacci.
Well, I couldn't access the minutes from the planning board, but that is not what Mr. Bach stated.
Our fair share plan is in the clerk's office. Anyone can request a copy of it.
Well, no one told, I stayed the whole
And you'll see on page 3 of that, it talks about 1,014 units. And it comes down to new units of 760. Then there's bonuses of 254. Add the two together, that's where they come to 1,014. But when you read it, you say, our 224 units is Franklin Square, they already exist. 99 units at City Falls, they already exist. 100 units of family. If you total up those numbers that already exist, multiple sclerosis center that the township did years ago of 22 units, that falls into this. So when you give us credits for that, it actually lowers the actual number, but the number still sits at 1,014.
Mr. Carlemere, can I add a question? Are there other ways that the town is seeking to meet the affordable housing numbers going forward other than this, what we're doing right now?
Part of the township's plan is to take market to affordable, abandoned homes to rehab homes that are boarded up. The township wants to, through its housing authority, which it has an ordinance, that they're going to partner with the Gloucester Township Housing Authority to identify homes that are abandoned in areas that are tough areas, and that they're going to take them over and rehab them. That's going to help us meet our number. And the more we do, the more we chop away at our affordable number.
Well, I think you've almost answered my question, because currently, I read that in 2017, that the rental market, the cost of renting, the rate
of raising rent is outpacing the inflation. And so if you're talking about that, this is fair market housing, fair market of then why?
My question is, if there's some concern about the cost of rental rates outpacing inflation, and even if we subtracted the 11 units that you're trying to get credit for, why would we choose that as our project for that particular parcel?
They intervene in the action.
Well, I guess my point is, why does it have to be 72? Because that is to the benefit
of the person who's going to...
Maybe I can ask...
The person is going to develop it.
Right. Maybe I can...
And my question is, there is some point where there has to be a compromise. This lot has stayed vacant for a very, very long time. And at one point, senior citizen residential was fine, and now suddenly it's not fine with the builder. He wants to do apartments because now apartments are in vogue. Mm-hmm. And and my question is, have we reached some saturation point? Have we built out? What vacant land do we have, and what are our other obligations? Why don't we look at rehabilitation, just as you said, about all those vacant properties, all those dilapidated houses? Because I know affordable housing to most people means owning a piece of the rock. They don't want a landlord. They've had them their whole life. They want to own something, to be independent. So why don't we look at that? Why? And my other question is this the first parcel
that you have addressed the affordable housing obligation since since your 2015 settlement?
No, the South End's.
New,
That was 2006. Mr. Lechner, can you answer that question?
It's just the first parcel that we...
yeah, my question is, since, not the existing ones, not the existing...
Has this been the first agreement we've had since
2015
decision?
I didn't know when you had your settlement with the Fair Share Housing Center.
I believe the Procacci is the only applicant.
I think there's like a course. Clean me up, Scotty. It's on, but it's not on. So I'll say this out loud. I always have a big voice. My question is then, if the Procacci parcel is the first one that you're trying to satisfy your obligation, why do we have to act upon it now? Why can't we step back for a moment and look at some other options of what to do with that particular parcel, as well as where would be a good place to start to meet your future obligation for fair share housing, such as the skating rink, Nike. There are a lot of, or rehabilitation, community block grants. I know there's tons. I read the county level. I read your consolidation plan. This is not the only option.
Mr. If you could provide your information up here, I'll make sure you get a copy of the information.
All right, and I had one question. No, I mean, I just wanted to ask.
They don't want you to ask any more questions.
I just wanted to ask, we were told that the planning board, that what they voted on was a recommendation and that you would have the last word. My question is...
No. Okay. No. Is there anyone else for this ordinance, ma'am? Okay. Sorry, after her. Sir, you'll be after her, okay? Sorry to point at you, sir.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Can I have your very good. I'm very well. Can I have your name and address, please?
My name is Melissa Gressy.
It'll come on. It'll come on.
It's on.
Switch over. I wouldn't hit anything, just...
Yeah, nothing.
It's not that.
Do we have a plug-in one? Just don't, make sure nobody...
I'm sorry, Melissa, 1 second.
Okay. Lower it so that nobody touches it.
Just plug that one in.
Oh, we have another one.
They should just lower the mic. If you lower it, people stop clicking. You can lower it.
Hey, Tom, can you lower the,
Lower the mic.
Tom, can you lower that microphone so that nobody has to touch it?
I like it, for the little people.
Okay.
My name is Melissa Gressy, I'm at 9 West Kennedy Drive. I didn't do all the investigations that everybody else did, I'm going to be completely honest. But what I kind of want to bring back is, I feel like nobody's really addressing the gun holdup at Brittany Woods, only because if we're going to bring more of that type of residents into our township, I think that maybe we shouldn't. Our children will all from school.
Melissa, these are affordable houses. These are not bad people. They're not. Melissa.
But the point is, what used to be affordable.
Melissa, you've got 11.
And I have a list of all the area apartments, and, you had stated that you are maxed out at your 1,100, whatever the case may be. We have 300 and something more to go, but I have a pretty extensive, non-comprehensive list, so
Tom, do we have a wire, a plugged-in one?
I don't know.
Out there. So we're encouraging more of this activity by bringing that type of lifestyle to the...
I'm offended by that type of people. I am. Just because I don't have money? Just because I don't have money?
Please, hold on. Ms. Agresti, hold on for 1 second, please. We're going to be respectful of everyone's opinions here. This is how I want to proceed forward. Everyone has an opportunity to speak. Mr. Hutchinson made a comment. You folks didn't agree with it. That's fine, okay? But everyone's going to be respectful of each other's opinions here as we move forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go ahead, Melissa.
So my concern is safety. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Our children lost a day of school because of that activity. You generally tend to see that type of activity in lower income areas. Am I wrong?
Yeah, you are wrong.
I It wasn't regulated.
Excuse me, folks. Up here, Mr. Agresti, you have to address us.
Okay, sorry. So I just wanted to just go over some of the places that are within the area that have heavily police activity. So, La Cascada, that was supposed to be a nice area at one time. It no longer is. Are you telling me there's not a lot of police activity there in Millbridge Apartments?
So I'm not involved with the police blotter. I don't deploy our police officers there. But
the police are here.
Ms. Agresti.
So my concern is, what are we bringing into the township?
Okay, Ms. Agresti.
Affordable housing is exactly like that, like you said, to help families pick up and move forward. However, what generally happens to all these local apartments that initially that was for? And what happened?
There are affordable housing.
That are run down. The upkeep is not there.
I'm going to explain to you how affordable housing came about. I guess we forgot we weren't going to be respectful to anyone's comments here. I can go.
I didn't say a word.
Back in the early 70s, Mount Laurel decided that they wanted to build developments there. They were planned unit developments. And they decided that they wanted to create developments that a lot of folks lived there. There's commercial ratables there. And there was a group of individuals that lived in Mount Laurel that they felt that their homes were dilapidated. And they told those individuals that you had to move, but you can buy one of these planned unit developments. These individuals were the African American community in Mount Laurel. And they fought back against Mount Laurel, and they said, listen, we want an opportunity to live here as well. And that's how we have the Mount Laurel Doctrine and the Mount Laurel decision, to provide low and moderate income housing for individuals. Now, this law was built to help, and you mentioned that we have police officers here, to help police officers when they first start out, to help teachers, store clerks, the senior citizen, the veterans, and I know we have veterans in this room, the cafeteria workers working in Gloucester Township Public Schools, the widow who has maybe 3 children, that they all need low and moderate affordable housing. The student that graduates from a college or university who has their first job that makes less than $46,000 a year is part of low and affordable moderate housing.
So when comments are made about them people, those people, and they, those are code words for something else. Because there are some shifty people in other neighborhoods through our community, not just in apartments. And I'm sure there are people here that once in their life, that they came from the city, they lived in Camden, they lived in an apartment, and they moved here for a better life. These are individuals that also, Melissa, may I finish? These are individuals that also want to have a better life as well. So this development, and it's in a perfect world, we wouldn't have this apartment complex there. We have an agreement with the fair share housing that we have to move forward with. But these 11 units, if you go in there, are you going to know the Smith family's affordable housing unit? Is there going to be a big old, W over their head that they're on welfare or social services? No, you're not going to know that. So some of the comments, when they say they, them, and those, some of the people here, and I hope that some of the people in the audience take offense to it. Because I'll tell you this, and I shared this at our last council meeting. My father died when I was 13 years old. Had a grocery store. My mother was a widow with 3 children in 1986. And she couldn't make more than $6,000 a year because she received Social Security benefits. Myrna Mercado would be in affordable housing. I would have been in affordable housing. But we had a home. We were fortunate to have a home, and she still resides in that home. But she's been retired for years. Social Security is going to run out eventually for her, and she's going to have to sell her home in Swedesboro where we grew up. But Myrna Mercado's never hurt a person in her life. She put 3 kids through college, law school, and graduate school. There are individuals that do live in affordable housing, that do provide and make contributions to our community. They're not individuals that are robbing people or sticking people up or raping people. So let's stay away from that. Let's have a discussion about what this is.
But you are discussing situations where those types of families move in, like you said, they're a widow. Yes, I do agree with you. However,
But let's not generalize things.
they're afraid. Do you think they're going to willingly want to move into La Cascada? Or eventually, because we see history repeats itself. Like I said, Millbridge, high police activity, the ShopRite on Laurel Hill Plaza. Again, activity, writing. Again, so my point being is that there's no deterring. You have no control. You don't know if that wonderful family that you speak of is going to walk in there either.
I have to say something. When we begin to say those people and they people, many of us, or people in our families, are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being those people.
Absolutely.
Many people who are suffering. I'm not going to let you take that conversation in that direction at this time. But many families who are touched by the opioid crisis, I know viable working families where one person is touched by that, the other family is displaced. They're good people. They're good parents. There's a good mother with 3 children who needs that leg up. At one time or another, all of us or someone we know needed a little support. Not because they were bad people, not because they made poor choices, but sometimes bad things happen to good people. And we're here to support those people when we can. And that's the whole idea of affordable housing.
But what are we doing to maintain it, with the upkeep, so that it doesn't become a drug dealing area and high crime area? What are we doing to prevent that for when this comes in?
Excuse me.
To keep our children safe.
And there's code enforcement that's used by the township. Some of the developments that you listed, are owned by people who, quite frankly, are slumlords. That they rent it out. They make their home a Section 8 property that they receive payment directly from HUD. There may be individuals in this room that own properties in the developments that you identify, because it's a quick paycheck from the Department of Housing and Development.
So, what parameters or what we can do to make sure that these developments don't fall upon it, code enforcement, to make sure when this developer goes to the planning board that his feet are held to the fire about the units, the size of them, the buffer from the historic farm, that they adhere to it, that there's shrubbery, that there's sidewalks, that egress and ingress, that they have to meet certain requirements when it comes to transportation as far as what type of impact it would have on traffic studies there. They have to provide that all at the planning board meeting. So when he moves forward with this project, if we move forward with it, and he moves forward with this project, those are the things that he has to provide at a planning board meeting. And that's an opportunity for the planning board and the township to hold his feet to the fire. Thank you. Anyone else on this ordinance? Lou? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. After you, I apologize.
I just have one question.
Lou, and this is for this ordinance, right, Lou?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Lou Orsini, 36 Cameron Circle. I just have one question. The woman back here that was up a little while ago asked a question, and I would like, is the council willing to take a motion tonight to table this?
Don't touch it, Lou, the mic.
I don't need a mic. Will the council be willing to take a motion tonight to table this until the next meeting with a bigger venue?
I will vote no on that motion to table if somebody makes it.
Let me answer your question, Lou. I would like to hear more comments, and then we'll move forward with whether we're going to move forward. There will be a motion to accept it or not accept it or to table it. Okay? But I would like to hear more.
All right.
Thank you,
You don't
Lou.
get any nastier.
No.
Thank you.
Sir? Sir?
Ferris Wheel, 1800 Winding Way.
I'm sorry?
He's afraid.
Ferris Wheel, 1800 Winding Way.
Okay. How can I help you, sir?
I think I have some good news for tonight for everybody regarding the affordable housing units. If the code enforcement will drive by the township and survey some of the properties that have extensions and add-ons built on, that we might find that some of these single dwelling family homes that are turned into multifamily homes may actually qualify those quotas or fill those quotas. It looks like there's some houses that have these extensions or garages that are turned into hotels. And do you take those units into account when you are counting your tallying up your quotas?
I don't believe so. Mr. Lechner, is that something that would fall under counting towards our affordable housing?
Because otherwise our problems are solved.
Is there anyone else on this ordinance?
I didn't get an answer to my question.
You walked away, sir. Mr. Lechner, would you like to answer that? So if there is a in-law suite or they expanded their home, will that qualify under affordable housing?
Only if it's deed restricted for affordable housing for 30 years. But if you're talking about people doing work without permits, you can call the construction office and we'll send an inspector out to check it out.
Okay. So then that answer is, that will be a no.
That's correct. Thank you. Miss in the back with the water bottle.
Hello. Meyer, 111 Hobart Drive.
So I am not concerned with the low income part of this, but I will tell you that I drive that way to work every day, and traffic is already horrific. So when the first planning meeting occurred, I timed my commute. I think it was like 24 minutes, and I sat through the light 6 times, right there by the writing.
Okay.
I drove by today, and it occurred to me that if there's an apartment complex there with children in it, they're not going to bus them, correct?
Yeah, if there are...
Bus them across one street?
If there are children, yes. So for K through 5 and K through 8, they're going to bust them. You have people that live across the street from Glen Landing that are not permitted to walk across the street. They have to take the bus.
Well, that's good, because I envisioned a crossing guard there. My other question is that we ran across an article, old as it may be, from maybe 2006, about the affordable housing, where Mount Laurel was able to obtain some property by eminent domain. They did have to pay market fair price or something in order to keep that space open space. And again, I'm not opposed to the low-income housing at all, just there, just that location there.
Okay. I think what is added to some of the early morning traffic there is the Laurel Road construction that's being done by South Jersey Gas.
It got worse. It got worse.
It got worse, but even prior to that...
Even prior to that, it's a problem. And Tuesday is the absolute worst. Tomorrow it's going to rain, snow, mixture of both. I would love if everybody got out there. At the same time, schools letting in or letting out, either one of those schools over there, and try to drive from Chews Landing Road to Summerdale Road, or, God forbid, the Black Horse Pike. I work in West Hampton. I sometimes have to drive to the Deptford Mall to go down Clements Bridge Road to cut through Runnymede to get on the Turnpike. It takes me longer to get to the Turnpike than I'm on the Turnpike for. Traffic's an issue.
Okay. Anyone else for this ordinance? Ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Mary O'Connell, 5 Madison Drive. Has anyone taken...
Good evening, Mary.
Good evening. Yes. Has anyone taken a look at what we already have? There are tons of apartments in the area. Has the council considered using what's there to fulfill their obligations under the Act? And if so, why not?
In other words, purchase an apartment complex and use that to satisfy the affordable housing.
No.
Okay, well, we have stock here. So I'll tell you what we have now that's in our current units. Franklin Square Senior Village, which is in Glendora. It's a senior community, 224 units. Scenic Falls, which is the old Scenic Falls off of Church Street, has 99 units. Cannon County Lakeland, which is Senior Campus 1, 150 units. Blackwood West is a Southwind project. That project was approved back in 2006. It's behind the, if you're familiar with Skeeters and Walgreens, that was supposed to be a development, about 500 units, is going to be Valley Brook S type development. The developer at the time was approved for it. The recession hit. They still have its approvals 12 years later, but nothing has been built there. But that qualifies for 100 units towards our obligations. Multiple Sclerosis Association of America, 22 units. What is that, Mr. Carlman?
It's, Ken, multiple sclerosis, is that Garwood Road?
That's
a group home?
Mullen Manor on...
Mullen Manor, okay. Thank you. This project, 1495 Chews Landing Road, 11 units, and then market to affordable program. So taking some of these abandoned homes, identifying them, and making them, put them out on the market for affordable housing.
No, I guess my question was...
So those are the units that we have right now.
Sure, but there's more apartment complexes in the area than what you just listed, correct?
But those they're not under our agreement or what we have as our affordable housing stock. Those are they're considered market rate.
Understood.
They're privately owned.
But has there been any effort to reach out to the apartment complexes that we do have to see if you can expand or satisfy your obligation with them, if they would be willing to? Does that make sense?
They would have to be restricted for a certain, as Mr. Lechner said, when the gentleman asked about
housing, and including houses that have been expanded, they've had to be restricted for 30 years for affordable housing.
Has there been any traffic studies done as to how this complex would affect Shoes Landing Road?
During the planning board process, when this developer comes and moves forward with this project, he has to provide, or the developer has to provide, traffic studies for that area.
Has the traffic study from the colony been looked at by the council and considered?
That traffic studies are provided to the planning board. That was approved. Mr. Lechner, can you comment on that? The colony, when that was approved, and the impact on traffic?
I'd have to research to get the exact date, but I do recall there was a traffic study, but that property is age restricted, I think for 55 and older, so the traffic impact generally is a lot less for an age-restricted community than for a non-age restricted.
Ms. O'Connell, if you'd like a copy of that traffic study, we could probably dig that up for you.
I have a copy of it. You're more than welcome to, I'll make a note to look it up. I'll try to find it tomorrow. I remember you guys paying.
Yes, thank you.
I'll give you my card.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lechner.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Carr. Sir, you'll be after Ms. Carr. I see your hand back there with the sweater.
Joanne Clark to the Verge. This resolution and the next resolution are basically on the same thing, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's an ordinance.
These ordinances. And during the conversations, you had mentioned that you had negotiated with the contractor, with the builder.
The township, yes.
Okay. The way I perceive
And through with fair share housing.
all right, the way I read it was you're going to vote and you're going to vote yes. We've asked you to table it, to consider it some more, and you've kind of said no. So am I to understand that when you vote on this, it'll be yes, and then you'll go to the next one and it'll be yes again? This is a public hearing. Are you just giving us a soapbox to talk on, or are you actually...
Ms. Carr, this is a public hearing.
Yes.
And individuals have every right to express their feelings towards this, and then each council member will vote accordingly to their own will.
Okay. I still want people to think they're giving persuasive ideas when some people's minds are already made up and it's going to go one way. So, but we do have another ordinance to do, which is the same thing, so maybe we can knock the second one out faster.
Mr. Mercado?
Thank you. Yes.
May I pose a question to the solicitor for a minute?
Mr. Carlemere?
Mr. Carlemere, if this does not get approved this evening, what impact does that have on our settlement with fair share housing?
Well, if it doesn't get approved, then it opens the door, because there is another objector out there on the ground on Shoes Landing Road.
And there's about 250 units on that one.
Right, and that objector has already been rejected by the planning board. Ken Lechner knows who it is, that wanted to build apartments there also, I believe, and was rejected. When he got rejected, he filed an objection to our fair share plan. And as I read his objection through his attorney, that he's proposing full low-income housing on the site that he has selected. So if we go back to court, and I'm just going to tell council, if we go back to court, because we've represented to the court and everyone signed off on what our settlement agreement is, that includes this 11 units. If we go back and say we're now off the table with this settlement, it opens the door for this other developer to say, see, they didn't realistically meet their obligation. Therefore, let's argue and have a fair share hearing rather than a settlement conference to see if the process goes through. Now, that objector has an expert coming in and has already tried to do some subpoena processes with Fair Share Housing Center that's been resisted. So he's an aggressive objector.
And that was for the property where the Little Mill Pond is, correct? The miniature golf place?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, and just before, I'm sorry, right now we have an immunity from any builder coming in, and we have stood the course with that since we filed our declaratory action in July of 2015, because there has been, builders have been that have tried to initiate intervention in the action, but we have a builder's remedy, and we have continually had that renewed up until our hearing for our fair share obligation, which is coming up in May.
Mr. Carmen, we all understand what immunity is, but in this case, what does immunity, you said we have immunity from?
We have immunity from builder's remedies. The builder can't
Meaning that?
They can't come in and force zoning on the township in any place that they own ground.
And because of this particular agreement, that's why we have immunity?
That's correct. And the courts have been favorable by granting us on every extension we've had to continue our immunity, and it's in keeping with the Supreme Court action.
Okay. Sir?
I have a question, but not connected to the ordinance. It's just for taxes. Is it okay? I can come right now, or should I?
Sir, we have to finish this ordinance. We still have a public hearing. Is there anyone else for the public hearing on this ordinance? We have a lady here that would like to speak on it. I said everyone will have an opportunity to speak.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
My name is Debbie Sewer, and I have a comment, and then I have a question.
Good evening, Debbie.
Sweet. My comment is
Ms. Sue, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We need your address for the record.
12 Sumter Court in Glen Oaks.
Thank you.
Not everyone, but I would say most of the majority of the people in this room tonight are not against fair housing for people trying to establish and better their lives. I personally am very much for that. My question is, if the person that owns this property now, and everything is passed, and everything is approved, and then 18 months or 2 years before he starts his development, if his company goes belly up because of the economy going in the toilet, what are you guys' backup plan? Do you have a backup plan for in a case like that?
Yes, we do. Mr. Carmen?
There are constant checks and balances where the municipality has to continually make application back to the court to report how we're meeting our realistic plan. So if something falls apart, such as this builder, and decides he's not going to build, not feasible, then the township has to readjust its plan and go back to the court and say, well, the 11 units we were proposing here will now be proposed at another location. So we have ability to constantly go back to the court to double check and change if things happen.
Right, so there's two things. As long as he owns it and it stays in good financial stead, and it is all passed, it will be built. The only way it won't be built, try to understand, is if he's not in good stead, he can't get this thing started and up off the ground for his own financial reasons with this company, then does the township go to another piece of land somewhere else and take that and try to...
Sure. We will reach out to our professional, which probably several of you folks met, Steve
Right,
Bott.
so that's why I think most people would really like the board to consider not shooting down this project, but simply take it to an area where it is not as congested and would be a hardship on the community. That is all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else for this ordinance? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Oh, there's one.
One more.
Yes, sir. It'll be our last one for this ordinance. Yes, sir, I need you to come to the microphone.
Has anybody looked at a parcel of ground that's a Black Horse Pike, and I think it's Lakeland Road, where AP Construction yet, and there's a little mini mall over there, and there's the car wash. It's all commercial. Why don't they go over there? Why don't you use that parcel of ground? What's wrong with that parcel?
That parcel of land is privately owned, sir. So,
Oh, there was a sale sign on that About a year ago,
And it's privately owned. It's not the township's property. So you want us to negotiate with another private property owner to move this property there? Sorry, is that correct, sir? Okay. All right, that will close the public hearing. I entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mignon. Roll call.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Sir, are you closing the meeting?
Mrs. Winters, sorry, yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Hague.
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Closing the public?
No, that was the public hearing, that was the public hearing for that ordinance. Now we have another ordinance. 0-18-05, ordinance of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, amending ordinance 0-0303, land development to amend the zoning map for tax blocks 8401, lot 1202, along Chews Landing Road. This is where we have reviewed and accepted the recommendation of the planning board and determined it's the best interest of the township to adopt an inclusionary affordable apartment overlay district in accordance with the requirements of the settlement agreement of litigation with the Fair Housing Center. We'll now open up a public hearing for this ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance, please raise your hand. Okay? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing on this ordinance. I entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. Next, we have the resolutions on consent agenda. Any council member would like to remove any items on the consent agenda, please speak up. Hearing none, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Winters. On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Mr. Owens?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mignon?
Yes.
Mr. Mercado?
Yes. We did receive some GTE Gov access. For those who've never been in our meetings, you can send email questions to council, and they are read here at the meetings, and we try to respond to them. I understand this comes from Henry DeSanti of 7 Christian Drive, Sicklerville, New Jersey. Question for council. I understand there was a no-bid contract for a roof on one of our schools. My question is, I'd like to know why something that expensive for $42 million was not put out to bid. I also understand that the school has solar panels that need to be removed before the roof is repaired. My question is, why were solar panels installed on a roof that would need repairing or replacement soon after the solar panels were installed? I have solar panels and my roof was inspected prior to installation to ensure that it was in good condition prior to panel installation. In response to Mr. DeSanti, this is a school board question that should be addressed to the school. I have no jurisdiction over the school board. This is the Board of Education. Next question. This is from Glenn Givens from 7 St. James Court, Blackwood, New Jersey. Question for council. Can you please advise why the council meeting notes have not been listed on the town's website since early January? Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you like to address that?
Yes. I took the position in February, and it was a transition that happened rather quickly at the most crucial time of year during licensing, during a lot of different things that go on in the office. And a lot of things such as this subject matter take time to do precisely so that there are not missing things that are important to everyone, the residents, council. So it has taken a little bit of extra time, but they will be done and complete within the next few weeks. And we have moved as quickly as possible, but again, the township clerk retired, and I took over. I was her deputy for 18 years, and that's where we are. So they will be done as quickly as possible. You can always view the meetings on our website in the video archive. You can watch the entire meeting through that. So you can fast forward through the meetings, you can do whatever you'd like to do, but the meeting minutes will be done in a timely fashion in the next couple of months.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next email is from Ryan Baines of 19 Eaton Circle, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. I was told when the premium outlets was being built that there was promising things coming because of it, and it would bring entertainment and nice restaurants to our community. What is the progress with the entertainment and nice restaurants for our community? The parcel of land that is owned there by the premium outlets, that's private property. They are out actively trying to encourage different type of eateries for that particular area. Mr. Lechner, do you want to add anything to that? Has anything come to your department regarding permits?
Not at the outlet.
Not at the outlets? Okay. And a next question from Ryan Baines, 19 Eaton Circle, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. What benefits as taxpayers do we get from allowing low-income apartments to be built close to our neighborhoods with the drugs, crime, and filth they bring with the majority of the people living there that just don't care? I'll address that directly to Mr. Baines. With that, we'll open up the second public portion. Anyone wishing to speak may speak. There is a 5-minute limit. We will be using the clock. Anyone wishing... We are using the clock. We're going to let everyone to speak. You have 5 minutes to address council. Ma'am.
Mr. Mikado?
Hi, how are you?
I'm a resident of Gloucester Township before you were born.
Okay, may I have your name, please?
Nancy Schmidt, 1533 Williamstown Road, Sicklerville, New Jersey.
And how long have you lived in town, Mr. Schmidt?
70, I'll be 70 next year.
Now, how long have you lived in the town?
In the town forever.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, 7, yeah.
Okay,
Next year.
welcome.
And the question I have for you is this. You're raising our taxes because you say you need the money. But why are you spending so much? And I see empty, blank faces, never feeling sorry for the people in the audience, like myself and my husband, who are seniors, and now the taxes are more than our mortgage payment on our home. Okay? So how are you saving money? That is my question for you.
How are we saving money?
Because you have all these social programs. We don't need all these entertainment by Gloucester Township. You're not being paid for social activities. And all the people that run them, you just keep letting it grow and grow and grow, like it's a party, we'll have this, and it's all and all that stuff. Look, I'm not against that with the kids, but I'm like a senior. I've never been to your senior center. I don't play pinochle. How much money does that cost for seniors to get on that damn bus, bring them in, and maybe have 10 people in the center? They would do fine at home playing with their neighbors.
Ms. Schmidt? Perhaps that was sarcasm, Ms. Schmidt, but there are people, senior citizens in this room, that do utilize those services.
They do?
That do utilize the bus that takes them for shopping.
But it's not...
That do utilize the senior citizen center. Ms. Schmidt, may I finish? I'll stop the clock, please. We do have senior citizens that do take advantage of the programs that we provide here.
Okay, that's not the important question. What
That's
are
not
you doing
the
to save
important
money?
question? Okay.
What are you doing to save
So, if I just want to recap, so last council meeting, the budget was introduced at a 7.9 cent increase. So for the average assessed home, this is the average assessed home, is total tax is $7,798. That's assessed, that's for a home that's assessed at, that's a home that's assessed at $195,000. Of that $7,798, $2,100 goes to the municipality.
Are you aware of the taxing entities in our community?
Well, I know the school's taking mine.
We
And
have-
guess what? That's our money. What is going on with the school system? Do they just decide they want it and take it without asking you? Because every time I call the township, they say, we can't answer that question, you have to call the school board, which you can never get through. And then it doesn't matter anyway, because they wanted it and they took it.
Of the pie, the Blackhorse Pike Regional School District,
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Gloucester Township Public School District, Camden County, your respective fire department within your district, and the library. That's all part of your tax bill. We're responsible for collecting all your taxes. Of those taxes, every dollar that you pay, roughly 28 cents or 29 cents comes to the municipality.
Right.
There are other taxing entities. We can only control what we can control as a municipality. So, when you talk about services that we provide, if you contact the police, do they show up?
The police are the best thing in this township.
Absolutely.
They are on
Absolutely. And in the past, and since 2010, the crime rate has gone down 35%. We provide them the resources that are part of this budget to enable them to do their job.
But the largest part of the budget, though, is school, correct?
If you put your yes, the two school districts. But if you
cut back. We need to cut back so people don't have to pay more.
Well, Ms. Schmidt, that's a conversation you have to have with the two local school districts.
You're in charge.
We don't. No, Ms. Schmidt, we do not control the school board. That's a separate entity.
We're the paying for the taxes that you receive. And if these people are saying it's too much, are you listening? Or are you just going to go on deaf ear and like, why come to the meeting?
Ms. Schmidt, we're listening.
Why is it so sad looking? Why is everybody there all stoic? It's so impersonal.
Ms. Schmidt, if I smile, I get criticized. If I have a stoic face, I get criticized. I appreciate it, Ms. Schmidt. But that's how the pie is broken up. There are services. For instance, as I said before, you contact the police, they show up. You put your trash on the curb, it gets picked up. If you want to have your children participate in activities, there's activities for them.
Well, you don't have to have activities. Their parents do that. Their parents do that. And the roads are deplorable.
Ms. Schmidt, do you have children?
Do you think I do at 70?
Did your children? Ms. Schmidt, when they were younger, did they participate in recreational activities here in Gloucester Township?
Not really, no. We have
Not really?
horses for them. They rode horses.
They rode horses?
Yeah.
But you provided activities for them?
Right.
And that's what families are looking to do, provide activities for their children.
Right. I just, I don't know. I didn't hear what you said you were going to cut. Cut down on the benefits and pensions and all that?
Cut down on benefits and pensions?
Pensions, right, that everyone receives here?
There are contractual things that we have to adhere to. We have 6 different unions. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis? Okay. There are 6 different unions that have contractual agreements that we have to adhere to. There's a certain amount we have to provide towards pension. Right now, they're negotiating contracts with some of those unions. Is that correct, Mr. Cardis?
We have settled all but, I believe, 2.
All but 2.
But, like I said, I've been here a long time, very upset with the township. It's awful. It's deplorable. Like somebody I know that said that word years ago. It's deplorable. It really is. I'm sad.
Thank you, Ms. Schmidt. Bob? Okay. Well, now, I'm sweating. How are you, Bob?
Good. Robert Sambuco, 1 Exit Drive in Blackwood.
Hello, Robert.
Someone needs to take control of the situation.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, it's the school board, it's the municipality, it's this, why don't you, as the council, take the lead, lower taxes 10%, and then say, damn it, we're going to go to the school board, we're going to go to the county, and we're going to demand the same thing. If not, we're bringing our residents to every one of your meetings until you follow suit, because we're going to be the leaders of saving this township. It starts with somebody, and that somebody has to be you. I know people in this township, I'm getting nervous because they're getting ready to lose their houses, and they're friends of mine. Somebody has to do something. I'm very fortunate. I can afford it. Barely, but I can afford it. But I don't want to see my friends leave. I can't retire in this state, but I can at least live here for the next 15 or 12 years until I retire. Take the lead and show us you care.
All in the back with the sweater.
Yes, you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for your time, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. My name is Paul James Singh, resident of 6 Eric Court, the Sacreville, Gloucester Township. I'm here to just ask a quick question as I'm very new. I've been in the township for 4 years, bought a new house. When I moved in, I was paying like $8,000. I'm 37 years old, proud U.S. citizen, love New Jersey and love Gloucester Township very much.
Thank you.
I'm thankful for everybody who contributes to make this township a better place. But as a township person, when I'm paying taxes, I don't know how does the taxes work. How do I plan my future? I don't think my Social Security, when I'll be 60, I don't think so I'm going to get my Social Security back. So what I'm trying to understand is, when I moved in, it was $8,000. Moved in, next year was $9,000. Next year was $10,000. I'm paying $11,600 something right now. I don't know. And how do I calculate for the next coming 20, I don't know the law, just to understand. You guys have 2025, you guys have a plan action. So if I'm planning my family, right now I don't have kids, I have a single family 4-bedroom house, live with my wife. If I'm planning my future, how do I calculate, like how do you guys increase taxes? Like $1,000 a year? Or like $1,200 a year? Like what? See, I'm very good in math. I'm very good in math. The only thing is I just wanted to take your help. You guys are specialized into doing this. What do you guys recommend? How does a person like me who loves New Jersey to the best, I'm never going to leave New Jersey. I'm going to leave, but right now, yesterday was speaking with my wife, I might have to leave Gloucester Township because like tax of $15,000 in the next 2-3 years, it'll be tough. So it's like, what do you guys recommend? How do I calculate, as a person like me, how do I calculate taxes and to make sure I can live? I pay taxes. I make sure my taxes go to my country. I know that there are people sitting out taking care of that aspect. I don't do that. My job is to pay taxes. I'm doing that right now. But how do I make sure I plan my future correctly and how do I calculate my cost of living? Because cost of living in Jersey is too high, sir. It's like I pay like more than my mortgage right now. I'm saying I'm able to pay it, but still it's tough. So how do I plan and make sure I have a better future to be a part of New Jersey? Thank you.
Paul? That's a difficult question for me to answer for you because I don't know what your financial situation is. I don't know what your wife's financial situation is. I know that anytime anyone purchases a home, they take a look in a particular area and they take a look at what the taxes are going to be. And I'm sure that when you came here 4 years ago, you took a look at the tax and say $8,000, it's affordable, we can do that. And you purchase a home where you're at, a 4-bedroom home. And so with your mortgage, you said this is something, when you did your own budget, your family budget, you sat down and say, this is what we can afford. The increases that you've talked about, sometimes there's increases where, again, we're contractually mandated to we have to adhere to certain things, that whether it's our pensions, whether it's our health coverage for our employees, when there's unexpected things that come up that we have to pay for. There are services that we provide for our residents that there are some folks say we don't need this or we don't need that. But there are always people that are asking for particular services, and we try to meet those services throughout our community. But as far as planning and how you can plan for that, I couldn't give you a direct answer. I know personally, myself, there's times I go into different neighborhoods and I say, you know what, that house I bought in 2006, and I got murdered. I got divorced, I moved to Valley Brook in 2006, and I overpaid for a condo, a 1,200 square foot condo that I overpaid for. But I wanted my son to stay in the school that he lived in. I wanted to have a pool so he can go to the pool. I hate paying the HOA fees. I pay $193 a month for it. And sometimes I go in different developments, and I said, I could buy that house. But I'm underwater. I would lose money selling my place. And so that's, when I take a look at it, okay, I know where I am right now, I can afford my mortgage.
I can afford to pay my taxes. And I'm in that particular situation. But there's sometimes I think, you know what? I want a bigger yard, or I want an in-ground pool, or I want to have, I want certain things. But I also realize that I can't afford those things. I don't want to be house poor, because what I have right now I can afford. My son...
Let me tell you, before I moved to I moved into this house, just to add on to my court.
Oh, I'm sorry we got interrupted. I'm
worries.
sorry I got interrupted, but I was trying to answer your question.
If I interrupted you, I'm just updating this point, which might change your perspective about my question is, before I moved into Gloucester Township, I looked into 90 homes before I bought this house, because I was in love with the township. I felt that, yes, there are things which might be good in it. I love Cherry Hill. I have friends. I work in Cherry Hill. I've been there. I'm in this business for a long time. Cherry Hill, I know every community members who've been there. Their taxes are not great. I wanted to be in Cherry Hill, but I still moved to Gloucester Township. Their taxes are not growing as the pace of Gloucester Township taxes are moving right now. I can give you experience. Like there's worries. Like if you say we live in South Jersey, the first city comes to name is Cherry Hill. Yeah. Nobody knows Gloucester Township. Everybody knows us like Stickerville. Oh, you're in that. Oh, don't go live there. Why are you living in that? I'm not saying I would be a good or bad. What I'm trying to say is, if we have Cherry Hill, I respect Cherry Hill. I respect Voorhees, where I used to live before this. Their taxes are not growing as the pace which we are going. I know guys I wanted to buy a house there which was $8,000 taxes. It's $8,400 after 4 years. And my taxes from $8,000 something has been to $11,000 something, like $4,000 increase. I'm not saying I can't pay for it, but how do you guys calculate, or how does a citizen of Gloucester Township calculate, despite he or she is a senior citizen or age of my bracket, or somebody who has been working hard to get that money, because the money doesn't come easy, You guys know it. I'm respecting all facts. We all come from old service class job. We work for an employer, we may get salary. So how do you plan, and what you guys can do for us that we all can be? I'm pretty sure 40% out to 50% of people sitting here, is my judgment, are talking about moving out of Gloucester Township right now. I don't want that to happen. It's our township. We have to be back here. But what can be done? You guys are running up the show right now. So what do you guys recommend can be done that we all stay back, have a better future? I respect our cops, I respect our firefighters, I respect the teachers and every student. I'm not counter-carrying what can be done in the education. It's not your job, it's not my job. There are people working up for it. But how we all stay back in our township. You heard that lady, she was here 70 years. Somebody's here 40 years and they're about to walk out of the house. So you guys have to do something for sure. So see if you can. It's a respectful, humble request which I want to have in front of you all, that please make sure that don't lose people that quick. They're leaving out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.
Question about projecting future taxes, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, what are you looking at?
Mr. Brown?
David Brown, Mulberry Station. I know a lot of people here talk about taxes and everything. I'm going to make it the last thing I bring up. You said that y'all really can't do anything about it. Y'all just do what y'all can. Y'all can't do anything about the schools and all that. But yet every time there's an election, it's team mayor. And that's for the schools and for this board and council. So you might say you don't have a word in it, but y'all do, because y'all work with the man who's in charge of the whole township. And it does come down to mayor over everything, because he is the mayor of the whole township. Y'all are just a part of it. When I first moved here 6.5 years ago, there was a lot of issues that I'm not going to bring up again, because that's old business. But I bought a house here and I was paying $6,800 property tax. Of course, the first few years we didn't have a tax increase. It's because we had 11% the year before I moved here. But and then y'all came out. The mayor was running for election. He said We haven't had a property tax increase in 4 years. Well, the following year after he got elected, it was at 8.3. Then we had a 0. Then we had 11.3. Then we had a 0. It was election year. Now we're here again, and we're looking at another 8%. So, I mean, I know one guy asked earlier, it's supposed to be on a cap of 2% per year. I don't know. I studied math in college, but I don't see how that works. I did have a question on the fire department with our commissioners there. You got 5 commissioners at every fire district. How many councilmen we have that cover those fire districts? I have no councilman here that lives within the area that I live in, but I've got 5 commissioners from fire district. I know y'all are at large.
Is that a rhetorical question, Dave? Or you okay.
When my dad was on council, we had districts, and we had 4 districts where I live, and each district was represented by the council. And here we don't have that. Everything's at large, but we are represented by fire commissioners. We've got 4 times as many fire commissioners as we do council people. I know that needs to be looked at, bring it into one fire department, just like other townships around us. We'll save $300,000 just in what we pay our fire commissioners.
Mr. Brown, how much is the fire district, how much does it cost Cherry Hill to have their consolidated fire department?
I don't live in Cherry Hill.
No, but just curious.
This is Gloucester Township. But Monroe
Probably about
Township,
4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 times what we spend in this town?
My fire district is the highest cost fire district in this township.
If you want a consolidated fire district, you're looking at a much larger cost for fire protection.
Actually, Monroe Township is discussing this with the fire district here because theirs is cheaper than ours, and they are consolidated. But okay, that's all I want to say on that. Repair roads. You know, our neighborhood was microsurfaced 2 years ago. It took 16 years to do it. And then it took 2 years for y'all to come out to see how bad the microsurfacing job was done. And you sent people out to repair it. And you agreed, Orlando, that it was pretty rough. Now, they came out to repair it. And I talked to Rose before she retired, and she gave me the numbers that 76% of our budget for roads was spent on our neighborhood for microsurfacing for the year, which, yeah, that's pretty rough. But then the repairs, the taxpayers had to pay that bill too. How come the contractors didn't have to pay it for the poor job that they did?
Dave, I recall you asked this question before. I guess you should tell the whole story, because your roads did get fixed. You did contact me. You did leave a voicemail message for me. You did text me. You did take a ride with Mr. Hutchinson and took a look at all of the roads in your particular neighborhood, and they were addressed.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, why did we have to pay to repair them when they should have paid to fix their poor job? It's just like if somebody builds your house and there's a crack that comes in it, are you going to pay for it, or are you going to make the contractor pay for it?
I would ask the contractor to pay for it.
The contractor. How come we didn't make the contractor pay for it?
I'm sorry.
Why didn't we make the contractor pay for that instead of charging the
For the
taxpayer?
microsurfacing or the original? Because you had asked for the original contractor for us to go after, and that was...
No. Actually, it was paid to the township 16 years before.
Exactly.
And it took 16 years for y'all to come out and microsurface it. So it never really got repaired. It just got a Band-Aid put on it. But the question was, after they put the Band-Aid on it, and that we had the cracks on it, they had to come and seal the cracks and all that. We as the taxpayers had to pay to get them to come out and fix the poor job they did. Why did they not get charged for the poor job, come out and fix it?
I can look into that for you, Mr. Brad.
Okay, all right, thanks. Now, as for...
Before you go further, Tony's our engineer here. Tony, how long does a microsurfacing of a particular street last?
A couple of years. A couple of years?
5 years.
Okay, well, 6 months after it happened is when I started calling about the cracks in the road. 6 months. It took 2 years to get somebody to come out and look at it. So if it was supposed to work for 5 years, it's only been 3 years now. We even have more cracks now than we did when they came out and repaired them last year.
All the reds.
But I can honestly say, our roads are a whole lot better than a lot of the roads in the township. But if you keep allowing the contractors to not do it correctly and then charging us to make them do it correctly, all that's doing is raising our taxes. You didn't stop it when you were answering the question. I just want to say just one
Mr.
thing.
Brown, I got folks that have hands behind you that are waiting to speak.
My property tax was $6,800 when I moved.
Brown, I'm going to ask you to sit down, please.
$8,400 now.
All right, thank you, Dave.
I'm moving.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Can I take this off?
Don't drop it. All right.
Did I turn it off? I did. Can I get that one?
Sir, you know what? If those mics, if you come closer, they pick up the mics there.
Can everybody hear me? I'm going to lean into this.
Why don't if you pull the mic towards you, I mean, you know what? Move the mic towards the table. You're part of our AV staff. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's try.
This will help or not. Before I get into my analysis or my summary of the data that I've reviewed in the budget, I have actually copies for the council to review the analysis and the budget look back that I did in Gloucester Township.
Okay, I'll
10 years.
Okay. So I'm going to need your name and address, please.
Tim Stanley, 33 Dunham Way. Hey, Tim. So just to give you some background before my time starts, I created this budget really because it's a part of my background to understand. So I felt like a proper benchmark for this budget and this detail was to compare comparable townships that have similar populations. So I compared Vineland, Cherry Hill, and Washington Township as well for the comparable areas. And I'm going to read this, so I apologize. I actually expected 3 minutes, so I've been training for 3, but I'm happy with 5.
All right, okay.
So I was born and raised here, and I'm now a homeowner, raising 4 children in Gloucester Township. I was educated in the Gloucester Township school system and Rutgers University. I met my wife 8 houses down from my childhood home, which I now live in. With my accounting, audit, and budgeting experience, I spent a lot of time reviewing the budget, 30 hours. I want to provide some insight into the areas where I thought it was encouraging to see. I think people should really understand this information. Increased revenue generated from this year's tax abatement was $600,000. So the tax outlets are creating more revenue for our budget. It translates into about 75% increase. Other expenses decreased $304,000, which is the biggest decrease in 9 years. Fees and permits revenue increased by $285,000. Few areas of concern. Taxes required to be raised overall increased $3.4 million. Revenue generated by the township decreased $959,000. Total debt increased $539,000. And the reserve to pay debt decreased $600,000. Of these concerns, the area most concerned was a salary increase of $1.9 million, or an 8.13% change from prior year. It's the largest increase in 9 years. In reviewing the budget, I compared 3 municipalities that had a comparable population: Washington Township, Cherry Hill, and Vineland. All 3 had less than half of the percentage increase that we have. 9 departments are proposed to obtain a 10% increase. And with the trained eye, I question the accountability of the person that created this budget. I generally projected budgets for my organization, and there's always a form of methodology that increased salary by a percentage raise as well as any benefit costs. When I read the Gloucester Township budget, almost all of the salary numbers were rounded, and that never happens. At Deloitte, we called this fuzzy data. Data that fall out of audit software for being suspicious, and this is concerning. Lastly, regarding my compared salary data, in the comparable municipalities, there were many outliers in comparison, but one of the largest disparities was the office of mayor. The department of this year is budgeting $189,000. Of the three comparable municipalities, the next closest budget was Washington Township at $76,000. Can you pause that for 1 second? So I can take a sip of water?
Okay, yes, absolutely. Here, I got some. Hold on. Sorry.
Thank you, sorry. So my question is, how can other, you don't have to answer this, but this is kind of a general question. How can other municipalities operate on a budget of $113,000 less than we can? The Police and Firemen's Retirement Fund in a 3-year average has increased 9.1%. Comparable change to other municipalities was less than half the increase of the performing fund. So my question is, why is our fund not performing where taxpayers need to subsidize the lack of the performing fund? Fees and permits increased $325,000 from $40,000, which is a great thing. However, when I compare the municipalities, those other municipalities have increased or have that line in generating revenue of $1 million a year for the last 4 years. What are they doing that we can learn from? Our liability insurance has increased at a rate higher than any other comparable municipality insurance. Can we start shopping for better rates? I have many other statistics, as you can see in front of you, and I'm more than welcome to go through them. But lastly, I live a life wanting to be a trendsetter and push the limits. I think you all do as well. I know in the past 9 years you have not proposed a budget that was amended. However, I really believe this is an opportunity to show you're willing to listen to your community and make changes. This opportunity to change positive care I believe you need, and I hope you consider these when making the improved budget.
Anthony Miller, Huntington Avenue, Glendora.
Anthony, how are you today?
Good, how you doing, sir? You mentioned the tax increase of, tripling the fire tax and whatnot. I just want to make it aware, this township is 95% volunteers. Your fire department is volunteers. We do it for free. Okay? By you raising taxes, you're hurting volunteers. Because we need to go out and get part-time jobs. Pay the taxes. Help us. That's all you got.
Thank you, Anthony.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
I'm Karen Dieterle,
Hi, Karen.
71 Sturbridge Drive in Ariel.
Hi, Karen. How are you today?
Hey, I came over here 36 years ago to a new home that we had built with me and my husband in 1982. I live in the Sturbridge Oaks development of the section of Ariel. I raised 2 wonderful children, ages 30 and 26. They went through daycare, kindergarten, all the camp programs, the rec center. They played Timber Creek football and cheerleading, made many great friends. I'm upset that the taxes are going up, and I'm upset for the same passion that you have when you speak about your mother and your brothers. And your answer was, you want a better life. If you look around at all these people, they're not kids. They're not 30. They're not even 40. They're at the end of their working years, bags under the eyes, tired, no hair, gray hair, and we're exhausted. The policemen, their eyes are bleeding, and they're going like this because they've had to stand. They're the most hardworking people in our community. What makes me more upset with the taxes going up, and I don't know all the specifics like Mr. Stanley did, and I read your Facebook post and I loved it. I have that passion you have for your family when you speak of yourself being underwater. I am an empty nester because our kids decided, once they went through the great school system that you provide and all the rec programs and the police and firemen, having access to problems in the schools, with the resource officers and that type of thing, they don't want to stay here. They can't afford it. My son just got married. He moved to Williamstown. Bigger home, less taxes. 4 bedrooms. She pays less taxes than I do in a 3-bedroom in Sturbridge Oaks. My daughter moved to Florida for more opportunities in employment in hospitality. I just feel that my neighbor lives 2 doors down from me, has a daughter that went to Drexel. She's working down in Maryland and Washington, D.C. in the Smithsonian, because there are no job opportunities. And we all have the same passion. That's why we're here so late, at almost 11 o'clock at night. We all want a better life. We're all ready to retire and can't. We're all in these big homes, and when I walk in my development by myself, every 10th home is abandoned. Because when they get to our point where you're looking at each other and go, well, what do we do now? We're going to not have a job soon. I'm at the end of my nursing career, disabled with bad knees. What do we do? You walk in the development, every 10th home is abandoned. We work our nuts off. To put mulch around our flower beds, to try and do everything on our own because we can't afford to have landscapers come in. So we make a project every Saturday and Sunday to make our home beautiful, so when you go by, it's like, oh, look at that nice house. 36 years in trying to have a better life and living my dream. We're hardworking people. We're all blue collar. And I feel like if you guys, I feel like this is just a force to be reckoned with. And I feel like no matter what anybody says, whether Mr. Stanley does 10 more analysis, how many policemen are here, how many folks are here, it's falling on deaf ears. But I want you to go back and think of your mom and your brothers and how hard your mother struggled. And we are your mother. All these are moms. All moms. All kids in this whole beautiful community. They're ripping up our streets and throwing black tar down in front of our homes and never coming back to resurface anything. No, you can't drive. You can't get up our development without having something wrong with your wheel of your car afterwards. I'm just asking. There's a list that goes on and on. What we thought was living the dream and a better life, we're taking 10 steps back. And I'm only asking you, and to look around. You don't see any kids here, because we are your future right now. We are what you have to work with. We are talented people, hard-working people that could help you if you would let us. That's it.
Andy, can you hear me? Doesn't sound like Andy.
Blizzard, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Sorry about the last name. No, I'm not bringing snow. 3 Northgate Drive, Gloucester Township, because I don't have a town name. I don't. I live in Rosegate. You tell me. I use Laurel Springs, but I live in Gloucester Township. Here's what I don't get. You people live in this township. How the hell do you feel about the township? And you're sitting there with these blank looks like, oh, gee, really? Like you live here. You're complaining about your HOA?
Miss Blizzard, I stop you for a second.
No, I'm going to continue. I'm sorry. I am in an industry where I speak to people all over the country.
I'll let you continue your 5 minutes, and I'll address you afterwards.
That's fine. It's not even running. Here's the thing. here's the thing, I talk to people all over the country. When I tell them I have a $250,000 house and I'm paying almost $10,000 in taxes, they fall off their chairs. And these are people that live in nice communities with good school systems, with activities for people all over the country. How do we justify this? I am looking, my children did not come back home either. They went to college, they settled in Maryland and in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is extremely expensive. Maryland, I am looking at houses that are $250,000 in Frederick, Maryland. Very nice, lovely homes, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, just like I have. The taxes are $400 a month. My taxes are $900 a month. What is Gloucester Township doing that's giving me so much more than Frederick, Maryland, which is a very lovely community with outstanding schools? How do we justify this? How do you guys go to bed at night and say, oh, well, gee, we're just going to keep going up with taxes? How do you go to bed at night and expect it? I don't get it. I grew up on the west side of Cherry Hill, all right? I came to Gloucester Township really because I didn't want to go out to Cherry Hill. And honestly, we're in Camden County. All of us in Camden County are paying a lot. I taught in Voorhees Middle School. The taxes in Voorhees are high. Camden County is high. But Gloucester Township is going up more than anybody else. And guess what? Our schools are not better. Cherry Hill and Voorhees have better schools than we do. And I was a teacher. We do not have better schools, and our taxes are going up. So whose pocket is it going into? The table is yours.
That's the real question.
That is the real question.
Thank you, Ms. Blizzard. It's not going to anyone's pocket up here.
Can you prove that? Because people have gotten salary increases and I didn't. My taxes went up, I didn't get a salary increase. But I understand the mayor did.
What was his salary? No, let's dispel that. What was his salary increase?
I don't know, but I've heard from other people, $45,000.
Incorrect. $52,000, and should remain at $52,000 since 2009. Each council member here, there has not been an increase of council. I make $8,200, Ms. Toronto makes $8,100, everyone else makes $8,000. They have not gone up since 2006. We don't raise our salary. Okay? So let's dispel that rumor that he received a $45,000 increase. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. Okay? As far as our response in our faces, I addressed this earlier. I'm listening to you. We're listening to you. Do you want me to have a ha-ha and jump up and down or rip up the budget and go crazy? I'm not going to do that. But I'm listening to you. And we all do live here. And no one wants to see anything go up, whether it's your utility bills, whether it's your car insurance, whether it's your life insurance, home insurance, any of those things. No one wants to see those things go up. But we also, if we're going to pay these taxes, we also have to provide you residents with services. Services that, again, you don't receive services here? I believe we receive services here. For an average home, as I said earlier, that's assessed at $195. That's assessed at $195. For $2,100, you're getting, as people have stated here, a top-notch police department, trash that's being picked up, recreational activities for our seniors, and they say, well, I don't use that, okay? Seniors don't need it. This room is full of seniors, and they don't need activities.
We don't. Okay.
Oh, so we're going to just pick and choose. There was somebody, okay, so let's go back. Many people said we didn't need certain roads built or developments built here, because earlier there was people making comments about overdevelopment here. Well, there are people living in developments. You won, that perhaps people didn't want. I live in a development, which was the old Beakley Farm. Ms. Schmidt, you're aware of that, correct? Okay, and I imagine there was folks, that people who live in Valley Brook, 1,300 units, that people did not want that development. We built roads for the future. We build buildings for the future. These are things that we're planning for. We were chastised. I go back to our capital budget. We were chastised a few years ago, and perhaps most of you remember, when we bought the Bearcat for our police department. Remember the Bearcat? Everyone called it the tank. What was that used on January 9th?
that was used in once. It saved the lives of our officers, the people that you stated earlier as the best police department that we have. It's the best thing in our town. But we were vilified because we planned for that. We're providing our individuals resources, our employees resources that they can use. These are the services. So when you say whose pocket's going into, Ms. Blizzard, you've been here before. We've had conversations before.
Only once.
Yes, we've had conversations before. But that intimates that perhaps these individuals up here are not on the up and up. And you question our credibility.
And I appreciate what you're saying.
And that's something I would never do to you, Ms. Blizzard.
Well, I don't know. Here's the thing I don't understand. This is my question. I hear you. What is
yes, a tax increase stinks. We all can agree upon that. Is that correct? But there's no need to have personal attacks upon anyone up here.
I'm not. I asked a question.
You asked whose pocket is it going into.
Because here's my question.
Ms. Blizzard, as an educator, you know what you were saying.
Well, actually, I've been out of education a long time, and I'm in sales, okay? So here's the thing.
Sales?
Here's my question, okay? Because in sales, you ask questions. All right? Why are our taxes higher, so much higher, when everybody's doing the same services? Gloucester County has the same. You're not giving us any extra services than Gloucester County has in Washington Township. You're not doing anything different than what they do in Brainerd, Minnesota, when I talk to my customers out there, and they sit here and their taxes are not. Why is it in Delaware you can have a 4-bedroom house and have all these services and pay $2,000 a year? What is it? Where? You've got to ask yourself, where is it going? What is it that you're giving us that's so superior that to justify our taxes? Because I don't see it, and that's what everybody's saying to you. So I'm not saying you're pocketing the money. I'm asking, where is it going? All right? And I don't have kids in the school anymore.
I addressed that. But there was someone who paid for your kids when you sent your kids.
But they're not anymore. My taxes went up. Yeah.
Someone paid for your children when they were in school. Correct?
Why so much? The question, you're not answering the question. Why so much? That's the question. Why so much?
We live in the state of New Jersey. That's the first thing.
Washington Township's less than us.
We're in Camden County. Okay, we're in Camden County. We are a growing community. We have close to 70,000 residents. We are the third largest municipality south of Trenton.
And nobody knows where we are. Nobody knows Gloucester Township.
When we brand the town, there's people that say, why are we wasting our money on Gloucester Township signs?
I understand that, yep. People want to be known by their neighborhood.
So those are some of the responses I had. Mr. Cardis, do you want to add? Mr. Cardis works on our budget. He's our business administrator. What contributes to an increased budget?
So much. The key is the word so much. That's the key word. What is it that we have that's so much better than everybody else?
As the gentleman pointed out that reviewed the budget, and I know you talked to Chris Diarra, our CFO, and went through the various appropriations.
I haven't talked to him.
I'm addressing the gentleman
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
that others had referred to and spoke before. There's a combination of problems. There's problems in terms of revenue, in generating revenue, being able to sell property, being able to bring in one-time revenues, as I'm sure you're aware as you reviewed that budget. There's a fund balance situation where the fund balance isn't as high as it was in the past. There are expenditure issues. You mentioned $1.9 million in salaries. That's correct. There are $1.9 million in salaries. Of that, a little under 1.1 million is police. 324,000 is public works, and that's almost the lion's share, that 1.9 right there. And these are necessary expenses.
But these are no different than anywhere else. Everybody's got these. This is nothing different. Why are we so much higher?
I wish we had more people. I wish we had more police officers. I wish we had more public works people out there.
I think, and again, people are leaving and not coming because it's too expensive.
I would not want to see a reduction. This is a growing community.
Oh, come on. You can't sell the houses. You can't. People are saying they don't want to come here because they can't, they don't want to come.
On services.
But they've got them everywhere.
Folks,
You're not going to
folks,
agree.
hold on.
You're not going to agree.
Let's go back to being respectful. I know it's 11 o'clock, but Mr. Carson's responding to Ms. Blizzard's question, and then Ms. Blizzard, then we have to bring some other folks that have been raising their hands here. Okay? Mr. Cardis? Mr. Cardis,
And let me just finish, because there is some talk about the 2% levy cap. And I heard it earlier in the meeting. How can you have a 2% levy cap, or how can you have a 2%, or I'm sorry, a 2.5% COLA rate that could be adjusted, which we do, because then we're able to bank the COLA, which is the appropriations. We can go to 3.5%. This budget, with this 7.9 cent increase, this budget is still $2,386,000 under the levy cap. Just to be clear, we're not at the levy cap. It could have been worse. It could have been $2,386,000. The appropriation side, can I finish, please? Can I finish? The appropriation side is $1,292,000 under the 3.5% COLA. So we are doing what we can to control costs. We're self-insured on our health insurance. We just got whacked with a big bill from pensions. Unfortunately, a lot of it was under the police side. We went up about $400,000 in pension costs. And trash, we went out for bid for that. We combined with Cherry Hill, cooperative purchasing agreement to try to save money. We are looking at shared services. We are trying to control costs.
And I appreciate that, thank you, and thank you for that breakdown. I guess I'm going to go back to the same question again. Everybody's got the same issues in every township, in every county. Why are ours so much out of skew from everybody else's? I
heard Cherry Hill mentioned before.
Yeah.
And I just went through and looked at Cherry Hill's tax, and it's right where ours is. So I don't know who's getting that information. And let me finish. I heard about the mayor's office, and I will tell you this. The number in the mayor's office was 188. The number in the mayor's office in Cherry Hill is 229,000. So I would check those numbers.
I didn't give those.
No, but they were thrown out earlier. Why is our mayor's office higher than any other one? And you know what? You have to make the comparison to Cherry Hill, because those are like to like. That's apples to apples. That's not, you have to look at those sizes. There is no one else around us that is our size. You can make that comparison.
Office of Mayor, $45,000.
I'm sorry?
Office of Mayor, Cherry Hill, $45,000.
I would go back and look at those again, because there's a chief of staff, there's a public relations specialist, there's an assistant to the mayor. You want me to read those numbers to you?
Tom, Mr. Stanley, you had your opportunity already. Ms. Blizzard, are you done with your questions?
I don't think I've had my questions answered, but thank you for your information.
You're welcome.
But I still do not understand why our taxes are so out of skew compared to other areas. That has not been
You have to
addressed.
look at the rest of Camden County.
Well, let's take it out of Camden County and go to Gloucester County and Burlington County.
Because you know why? You have a statewide problem. You have a statewide problem. And until the state of New Jersey stops us relying on property taxes to balance budgets, it's not going to change. It's the problem of the state of New Jersey, and they're not changing how we do this. And you know what? They set these formulas up. They tell us how to calculate the levy cap, how to calculate the appropriation cap. It's by formula. We plug numbers in. That's where we get our figures from. Every municipality, all 566 municipalities, are doing it the same way.
So the increase is because, so you want to raise our taxes because...
I don't want to raise your taxes. I live in this community too.
Exactly.
I do not want to raise your taxes.
Okay.
I will tell you this, over the last 9 years, the average tax has gone up 2.99 cents. Before that, the prior 9 years, was 9.9 cents. And I can show you those figures. I can show it to the gentleman that went through the budget. And if you look, there's a drastic difference between 2.99 over 9 years and 9.99.
So this whole conversation about an 8% tax for coming up, and that being on the school tax, I believe, where's that coming from?
We talk about the 8%, let's be clear. Our portion of the tax bill is about, as President Mercado pointed out, is about 8%, is 28, I'm sorry, 27%. That portion, I agree with you, went up about 7.98%. I do agree with you. That's that 7.9. The rest of it, the schools, the county, they're individual tax additions. It used to be that those budgets would come before us or come before you and you'd vote on it. And you'd vote them down. And then we'd go back and adjust the school budgets. Not when Christie got in, and I changed. Doesn't come to you any longer. They have to stay within their 2% levy cap. And let me tell you about theirs. It's the same as ours. It's got the formula exemptions, and it still comes out with a big tax increase at times. What I've been told so far is that they are not going to be that high, that they should be in the area of 1 cent to 2 cents on both of them, which is a significant portion of the overall bill. I would say it's about 53% of the bill. I don't know what the county situation is. I spoke with the county treasurer today. Actually, we texted. He's going to provide me those numbers tomorrow. That should give me a better indication of what the overall rate's going to be. And that's really the big rate. That's the one that you're going to see when you get your bill.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is you guys are supporting us and not in agreement with killing us anymore because it's going to hurt all of you as well.
We desperately don't want to raise taxes.
I want to save money. If we can save money, I want to save money.
Right.
Thank you,
So
Ms.
we've all
President.
got to work together, it sounds like.
Yes. Thank you. Gentlemen, yes, sir. We're going to try to get to the 5-minute clock. I know there's other folks that want to get up here and speak.
I don't take it long.
No, that's fine, sir. You have your name?
My name's Cedric Holmes.
Mr. Holmes? Hi, Mr.
2 Glenburnie Drive, Sickledale, New Jersey.
Mr. Holmes, how are you?
Not too good. I'm complaining about my taxes. I had a house built in 2000. It's White Oak Development. Been there now 15 years. Every 2 years, I got about a $2,000 tax increase. I am 70 years old. I might not look it, but I am. And I'm talking to represent this. When is New Jersey enough? You know, I was thinking about the Israelites and how the Egyptians had made Israelites slaves. I said in New Jersey, we're slaves because we're beat down by the taxes. All right? Black lives matter. Blue lives matter. And seniors' lives matter. So I asked a question, and this gentleman here, this is the first time I've been in any kind of meeting since I've been here, but this gentleman here said something about they could only do so much because of New Jersey and the governor's office. So my question is, if we're wasting time trying to complain about our taxes, maybe we're complaining to the wrong people. Maybe we need to get on a bus and go to upstate New Jersey and complain to the governor's office. Because I went to different mayors and stuff, and they tell me their hands are tied when it comes to property taxes. We can't fix them, we can't change them. So we're speaking and we're staying here all this time trying to complain, and some of you ain't hearing us. It's a joke they talk about when you get to be a senior, you have trouble hearing. Well, I believe some of y'all seniors now. And you can people are talking to you, you're not hearing us. You're not hearing how we're toiling and working. And when you get to a senior, I pay taxes for my kids to go to school, fine. I pay for new schools to be built since I came here. But when is enough? When can you? How much more can you expect? They say, okay, Mr. Holmes, we're going to freeze your taxes. Give us a call. When you get 70, we'll freeze your tax. Called him up, I'm 70 years old, and guess what he told me? Mr. Holmes, you make too much money.
That's right, that's right.
Can't freeze your tax, you make too much money. Well, what am I supposed to do? I'll go 25 years for the Department of Corrections, retired correction officer, thank the state of New Jersey that I have a pension, and I collect Social Security. So between the two checks and my wife's Social Security check, we make too much money. That's what they're trying to tell me. I'm making too much money, but I'm not. I still got to pay the taxes. I'm still trying to keep my home so my home looks nice like everybody else. It costs money to keep a home together. Electric, all that stuff costs money. Insurance in New Jersey is outrageous. I'm saying, when will you hear the people's cries that we need concerns of the people that we place in a position? We voted you in this position. We voted you in a position because we thought you were going to do something for the poor person and the middle class person. And only thing we can do is the same way we voted you in, we can vote you out. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr.
David Benoni, 115 Marshall Avenue. I also am the chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners for Gloucester Township Fire District 4, and I'd like to address a statement made by Mr. Hutchinson in response to one of the questions that was asked, comparing our fire districts to Cherry Hill if we were to consolidate. I think that's a gross oversimplification and a misstatement, sir. I think to compare Gloucester Township, where we have 6 fire districts relying almost majorly reliant upon volunteers, to compare us to a fully paid department and say that our budget would triple or quadruple is not a correct statement. The reason I say that is because I can't imagine how efficiently our township would operate if we had 6 town councils, 6 police departments, or 6 departments of public work. I can't imagine how inefficiently our fire districts operate with 6 separate taxing entities, 6 individual tax rates throughout the township, 30 fire commissioners who make almost $150,000 a year in salaries. I think that it's a gross misstatement to say that it can't save money or at least be run more efficiently. And I can give you examples in Deptford, Washington Township, Winslow Township, and Voorhees that have consolidated and kept their volunteers and maintained their budgets. We currently operate in this township on about $7 million in fire tax. We could run 24-hour shifts if we were to consolidate and pool our resources. So as someone who has pushed for consolidation and continues to push for consolidation of the fire district, I think you do a disservice to the township by misstating or misrepresenting the fact that it would triple or quadruple our budget.
May I ask how much Cherry Hill is?
I believe Cherry Hill is between $12 and $14 million.
So between 12 and 14, so 13 million. So it's twice the cost of ours.
Yes, sir.
Why is it twice the cost?
They have no volunteers. They're reliant fully on a full-time paid fire department.
Didn't they have volunteers before they consolidated?
They did, and when they consolidated, there was an issue with the fact that their volunteers were also collecting a salary. They weren't truly volunteers.
And aren't there paid firemen pensionable and getting benefits?
They're full-time paid firefighters are, yes, sir.
They're getting pension and benefits?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But we have 22 as opposed to their entire department.
Okay.
So, that's all.
We're pushing for consolidation.
I am pushing for consolidation. I think it would operate more efficiently.
Okay.
So, I thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dave. Change that hat.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Darlene Ober. I live at 1593 Hyder Lane for the past 44, almost 45 years. I am concerned about all of these goods and services that you say we are getting. Number one, when we moved here 44 years ago, we had 2 trash collections without anybody else involved. Now we have 1. That to me doesn't equal correctness each week. Also, we were told that we would save money by recycling. We get this flyer in the mail, which is all that I've seen, that says we made this much money by recycling. Where does it go? That's one of my questions. Another one of my questions is, along with our regular taxes, we are overtaxed in Camden County, as far as I'm concerned, which I know, as the board of the township, is not a major concern of yours, but back in the 90s, when they implemented the CCNUA, we were told that was for 10 years, only 10 years, and it won't go any further than that. And then it will be abolished. That was what we were told. It wasn't abolished. It was just added on, and more is being added on. And to keep raising taxes on the seniors who, by the way, put their children through school, paid the school tax. Like I said, I've been there 44 years. I paid school tax for 44 years. There ought to be a limit on what senior citizens have to pay towards the school tax. That's all I'm saying. If you can put an apartment in and people don't pay the school tax, then why do we pay? That's all I'm asking.
Darlene, thank you for coming out. I'll address the last part. In our apartment complex, yes, the largest taxpayer right now in Gloucester Township is Millbridge Apartments, because when they raise the individuals who rent apartments, when they raise their when they raise their rent, that's the Millbridge complex or Autumn Ridge or Scenic Falls. They're paying their taxes. So there are individuals that do pay taxes there. The property manager, the property owner. Again.
Well, then why not increase their taxes instead of the seniors? I mean, that's what we get.
An increase is across the board if there's an increase. With stopping property taxes for senior citizens when you get to a certain amount, that's an issue that goes with the state. This is something that property taxes are used to fund education. And this is not something that any municipality can address and say, Darlene, that we can stop this. This is mandated through the state of New Jersey. This is how our children are educated. This is how we pay our teachers. This is how we pay for their pensions. This is how we pay for one-to-one aides and cafeteria workers and bus drivers. That's how your taxes, and yes, I know it's not, you did your time. You did your time for 44 years.
I pay my health insurance. I don't have a pension or anything. My husband and I both pay our own health insurance. We are on Social Security. And it should be that we have, in other words, we have done our service to Gloucester Township. Now it should be our time, and it's not.
The recycling answer, Mr. Cardis, with our recycling?
So I've been here for a number of years. Back in 1991, we created what's called the Global Agreement. And what we did was we engaged the GTMUA, took advantage of land that they owned, and we created a DEP approved compost facility. The Global Agreement contained three parts to it. One, that the MUA would pick up our recyclables, and we would provide the equipment to do that. Two, that they would pick up our grass. And three, that they would receive and also pick up our leaves at certain points during the year. So within that global agreement, there are revenues generated from that compost site. And we are one of the only DEP-approved compost sites around. So those that are disposing of their leaves legally are bringing them to our compost facility. I don't know whether they're taking them, others are taking them to farmers or whatever. So that's part of how we save money. The other part is, on the recyclables, we lower what we pay in tipping fees. Tipping fees right now are $60 a ton. So the more we can collect, and right now the recycling market for plastic bottles, cans, cardboard is not that great. It's actually at a point right now where we're not making money, we're paying a little bit of money to get rid of it. But we're paying a lot less than $60 a ton taking it to a landfill. So in addition to that, the state of New Jersey, we have to keep meticulous records on everything we collect. Not only what we collect, but what all the businesses collect, if it's privately picked up, all that information goes to the state, and then we get tonnage grants back. And so we're getting that money coming back, and that's going to offset tipping fees, that's going to help with the recycling cost. So these are areas that we became involved in years ago. And several times through my career, I've gone out and I've priced what it would cost for a private contractor to come in and pick up our recyclables and pick up our grass, and it is astronomical, astronomical. Right now, we're able to provide all those services for a little bit under $2 million. I can tell you that would probably be close to $4 million, if it's not more. So that was an innovative way that we came up with to drive down costs and to increase the collection of recyclables and save money.
But driving the cost down should lower the tax.
You would think, but other things in that budget go up. And listen, a budget is simple to understand. There's one side is the revenues, the other side is the appropriation, and the plug figure is the taxation, the amount to be raised. And if those revenues go down, as the gentleman pointed out, that presents a problem for that levy, and that's why that levy goes up. And if the appropriations stay the same or go up, that's another problem. If they go down, that's good. But that doesn't typically happen. Things keep going up. We just paid approximately $5 million pension bill. That's a crying shame what the state did. That's a crying shame, starting with Whitman. There are 9 pensions in the state of New Jersey. 2 of them are funded. The police and firemen's and the PERS. The rest of them, the teachers, gone. They borrowed the money. They didn't borrow the money. They misappropriated the money. They took that money. And that's why the pension system's in such disarray right now. It's a crying shame. I blame the state.
Mr. Cardis, can you just explain the way that we provide insurance to the employees of the town versus
Absolutely.
what it could be?
Absolutely. We, recognizing that we had what I would consider rich benefits, and I'm going back years. I'm going back 15, 20 years. We decided the best thing to do is actually my predecessor who taught me, and he's the one that came up with the idea, and we just ran with it from there. We became self-insured. We became our own insurance company. So what we have is we have excess insurance. So we could take our benefits at any level. For example, there's 6 unions. Each union could have a different level of benefits, and they could all be funded under a self-funded plan where we have insurance in place. And what I found is, based on looking at fully insured premiums, if we had gone to Aetna or Horizon, we would have never been able to keep our costs where they are right now. We are in the business of being our own insurance company. And that's one of the ideas that I've mentioned to the schools. We have the largest K through 8 in the state of New Jersey. I think there's an opportunity down the line to get together and expand that self-funded environment. Take advantage of our numbers, economies of scale. And it's worked for us, and I think it would work for the entire town. So there are still ideas that we're coming up with and talking about. We just haven't gotten to the point where we've been able to implement all those things. But again, I'm very dissatisfied myself personally with how taxes are raised in the state of New Jersey. I just think it's a shame, and it's not going to get any better, unfortunately, because that's the system that the state has decided will be in place, and there's no apparent change.
And unfortunately, you're going to have a lot of seniors that say, bye-bye. Sorry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Oben. Thank you for coming out this evening. Sir, in the back with the Coke bottle. Anthony, I'll get back to you when everyone else speaks.
Toby Rector, Annapolis Drive, White Oak.
Thanks for coming out.
I have a couple questions. First question is the electric that we were forced to cut over to a third-party provider. Where did that savings go? And then the other question I have is property assessments. Can the council do anything about the property assessments? Because I know Gloucester Township was highly overassessed due to the Gloucester County Assessment Office. What was that, Palumbo? Is there whatever his name is?
Well,
Whatever, yeah, but can we go and do anything as a township, since you guys were able to change our electric with no problem? Can we go in and force the county to reassess our properties so we're not, have such higher property assessments so our taxes would get lowered at that process?
Toby, with the first thing, the energy aggregation program, so if you're in the southern part of town, you're with Atlantic City Electric, correct? Any type of savings, that would go into your pocket directly. The township didn't receive any type of savings from that. It's from each individual homeowner or leaseholder.
Okay,
so
well, when it went through,
so if there was any savings, well, we had savings as a municipality.
Not our own.
We had our own.
Right.
For our buildings.
Right, that was a lot of buildings the township has, so where was that savings brought to?
Yours, if you were an ACE customer, if you're in PSE&G, I would say your savings on an annual basis was somewhere between $70 and $100. That was already built into your bill.
That was mine. I'm asking yours. You got all your buildings. You guys put solar on.
We didn't get
everything else. I have solar on my house. I know my electric bill's $7 a month.
By aggregating the town, and again, anybody had the opportunity to opt out. By aggregating the town, we're not saving money.
No, you guys are saving money in your buildings. You guys pay power and stuff. I'm saying your buildings.
We go through the county. The county puts out for bid for electricity, natural gas, and we participate in those bids.
Okay.
And I can't tell you the exact amount we save, but we save money by being part of, it's economies of scale. We're all going out for bid together.
Tom, is it possible you could provide that number?
I have to get it from the county.
I know not now, but,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Second, with the, you said
property
revals or reassessment? Or
reassessments, yeah.
Okay. Tom, to help me out, 2009 when we had a reval?
Yes.
And we went through the process. With a revaluation, the county tax board says to each municipality, you have to do a revaluation of your properties in your municipality. At the time when we had a reval, I guess Dan was still on here. I think that was I want to say a $3 million project.
Yeah, about.
That we paid it in installments, dedicated to our budget.
You financed it under the state guidelines, which was an emergency appropriation, which was financed over 5 years.
At the time, it was probably, we were behind 15 years in doing a reval, and we were ordered by the Camden County Tax Board to have that reval. So the last reval we had was 2009, 2010.
Okay, so we're about 8 years out, 8 years since then.
So we're probably, if you go by, it's done every 10 years.
Okay.
2020 we're supposedly due, or 2019. That's something that the county tax board notifies our municipality.
Sometimes a reassessment's done.
Okay.
That's a less costly approach to doing that. But I don't want to interrupt, but you have the opportunity to appeal your assessment.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
I have several times, yeah. So
you have to remember that the assessor gets 15% plus or minus market value as a margin of success or error. I'd like to be able to be off 15% plus or minus. That doesn't happen, but so it's very difficult. You really have to do your homework. You have to make sure you have comparables to show.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so there's a process.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. That's what I was asking. As a township wide, could that be done to help lower the taxes as well?
Only as a reval or a reassessment.
Okay.
And it's costly.
And so the percentage of that property valuation, Gloucester Township is at 104% or 107% now? I forget what the actual percentage.
102, 103?
We're one of the highest. We're in the top 3. I remember seeing on the list. So I was just wondering, can that be lowered to help drop taxes as well too? Because all of our taxes are based on our property assessment. So if we're taxing 107% of that property value, why can't we lower that to 8% and help burden us down to and still have our bills paid?
Mr. Cars?
Because if you lowered all the assessments, then the tax rate's going to go up.
How would the tax rate go up if
The
we're
higher the assessed value, the further you spread the amount to be raised by taxation. That's why we just hired a company through an RPRQ to go and look at some businesses throughout the community, whether they be commercial, industrial, to determine whether or not they're properly assessed. This company is aggressive and knowledgeable and has had a great deal of success in looking at companies and saying, no, you're not supposed to be at $3 million. You're supposed to be at 4.5 or $5 million. And so if they're able to do that and raise those assessments, that helps you out as a taxpayer because it spreads out the amount to be raised to more ratables, to higher ratable base. So your solution is just lowering all the ratables, this drives the tax rate up.
Okay, thank you.
And so if I can add one more thing, with revals, Toby, there are some folks that do want their house assessed, and there's some that don't want it because perhaps there were improvements that were made, and perhaps they didn't get the necessary permits. Perhaps they don't want their particular house to go up in value or lower in value. There are seniors that may say, you know what, this is what I'm paying, and I'm comfortable paying this. But that's something that when Kingdom County Tax Board says we have to adhere to that, then that's something that we're going to have to do. I don't know. I can't forecast when that'll happen, but it's supposedly supposed to be done with every 10 years. But prior to that, it was a 15-year period before we went out on a reval.
I don't like it because it costs money.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, sir. Mr. Keller, I'll get you after him.
Evening, Joe.
Good evening.
Good evening, Joe.
Joe Reed, Woodbridge. I've got to commend you. You sat here for 3.5 hours, dancing very well. I mean, you've done a real good job. I guess my point is, it's not a question, it's a point. My wife and I have X amount of dollars to spend. When we get to those X amount of dollars, we're out of money. Maybe you should look, and I know what you're going to say, Tom. Maybe you should look at maybe spending less money. It's not complicated. Try spending less money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Going 27 hours.
Okay.
Vincent Keller, 417 Hampton Lane. I know you're going to say the same thing as usual, Mr. Hutcherson, but were we able to ever have a mayor at one of these meetings that's not a fluff piece, that's not for what was the last one for, some history month, or they're giving out something for younger children, they were giving awards. Does he come aside from that?
You said Mr. Hutcherson, but you're looking at me.
Well, because I know his answer last time is he doesn't need to be here.
Okay.
Was the last time he gave us that. So
And you want to answer that?
Yes.
Did he address you?
Mr. Keller, this is a legislative body. This is not an executive branch. If you look at the federal level, it's very similar to what we have here. The president doesn't show up at the congressional hearings or congressional meetings. So it's very similar. Okay. Now, the president or the vice president may show up for ceremonial functions, and that's fine. But if the mayor shows up here, he's got to sit in a chair, and he's not going to participate. This is our meeting.
And did I hear correctly, we hired somebody to auction off houses? Or was that something that that was just more propaganda from whoever else was posting that?
No, we had at our last meeting, was it RFQ or
We are looking to engage an auctioneer. Yes.
Just to look at that from another set of eyes, I mean, if the taxes weren't so high, we wouldn't need an auctioneer. We've stated that snow cleanup and storm cleanup's been a big part of our property tax increases over the years. Do we pay our people double time or for certain storms if they're an active storm or the day after?
We do not pay standby, if that's what you're talking about. We do pay time and a half. We do pay double time. It's all in accordance with the contractual obligation under the contract.
Now, are we able to cut back on some of that stuff, considering we have a few of the trucks in the heat? I don't know if they're in our fleet, if we outsource, we had a few F-150s.
No, we still need to outsource. The town is just too big. There's, I think, 690 miles of roadway. It's just too much. I mean, we've
had certain people, and I don't know who we had this winter for that. We had a few trucks getting stuck in the snow and other issues like that. I mean,
snow plowing is always a nightmare. And our priority with our Public Works Department is to make sure we get brine out, get salt out, make sure that the police department can get in and out, make sure the rescue squads, the fire, everybody needs to be able to, safety is the priority.
Which I understand. But I mean, and then for the days after where they're riding around with the snow plows up for 10 to 12 hours, I just didn't know if there's a way for us to cut back on that, for them just patrolling the areas, or is that just...
They're still working, and you know what? If there is imminent concern that there's another storm around the corner, we are not going to drop those plows down. That would not make any sense.
I guess I just figured I'd ask a few questions.
If you see one riding around, come Friday or Saturday, let me know, and it's a problem.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Vince. Get some sleep. Anyone else? Mr. Hague.
Move to Hi, David Haig, Holland Village. How are you today?
Very good. How are you?
Just a question. Property values in Gloucester Township aren't moving. The houses aren't selling. In Highland Village alone, there are at least 35 houses that are either abandoned, for sale, they're not moving. The recycling, shredding event you had Saturday, I found some paperwork from '98, my tax paperwork. My taxes back then were $3,200. My property value is about the same as it is today, and I'm paying like $7,600 now. I'm on a fixed income. I'm sure a lot of people here are on a fixed income. Every time you guys raise taxes, and it's not just, I know, it's you, the township, the school board, the fire district, I have to cut my budget. I think it's time that everybody considers cutting the budget. You know, especially senior citizens, like the one lady over there said the senior citizens, she paid school taxes. I always thought that was something weird, and I have contacted Christy Todd, Chris Christie, Murphy's office, and complained about that. And actually spoke to one of Murphy's aides, Lisa, I didn't get her last name, about that. And they said they would pass it on to the governor, but something like that, help the senior citizens out. Because we're on a fixed income. And just a question, is there anything here that any of us can say that would change your mind to maybe lower the rate from 7-8% to 6-5%?
There are a lot of things that were said here today, Mr. Hague.
That would make you consider changing that, sir.
And this is a discussion that we have to have as a body, and have a discussion with the administration regarding some of the comments, a lot of the comments that we heard here today. And I understand that there are people that are hurting.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And as I said earlier, no one wants to see a tax increase. It stinks, quite frankly.
Well, I agree with that.
But, again, there are, we have to keep the lights on, there are services that we provide, and then it gets into, well, what services can you live or live without? Because a preschool program, that may not be important to you, but it may be important to Mr. Stanley there, who has 4 kids, and he knows that the rec program...
All my kids went through it.
I'm saying, but the rec program is beneficial to him. If you went down to Hyder Lane and played pinochle with some folks on Hyder Lane, Mr. Sanders like, I'm not going anywhere near Hyder Lane anytime soon. Right. There are different things that are offered to different parts of our community. And that's the challenging thing with administration and council, is to say, okay, what is important? And because there are certain things that add to our quality of life here.
Oh, and I agree. Gloucester Township, I think, it's a nice community. Some of the conditions, like Blackwood Clement Road, that's a total disaster. Most of the stores are closed on it. But the police department's excellent, and I feel it's a safe community. I know a couple people commented, like, them people, I didn't think that was appropriate. I think it's a safe community. To prove that point, I don't know what the legality is. I know from my professional opinion, it's a safe community because I am a retired law enforcement officer. I realize the township does it, but just to consider that there are people out there on fixed incomes. That's all I'm saying.
David, if I may, during the summertime, I think we came in contact...
Well, you looked at my back, and it's still under discussion.
Right. I mean, it's not perfect, but Public Works came out there, right?
They came out, they did cut the issue that I had, that I showed you, they took care of. Right now, it's flooding.
Right. Now, my point, though, for bringing that up is
there
are a tremendous amount of requirements on our Public Works Department. They are spread so thin. They need more people.
I agree.
Our clerk's office. How many people are you down, Nance?
2.
You took it on the chin tonight. You can't get your notes out because you are down 2 people. I didn't hear you say that, though. Okay? You can't do your job adequately because your office is understaffed. We're doing more with less. It just costs more. Every year, it's costing more to provide government services. I don't want to raise your taxes. I promise you that. My wife has been listening to me complain for the better part of a week and a half, knowing that I was going to be here till 12 o'clock tonight, and I don't want to raise your stinking taxes. I listened to a guy on my phone today. He called me up, and he was almost in tears that his mortgage payment was going up $29 per month.
To a lot of people, $29 is a lot of dollars. Right. Like Nancy Pelosi said, oh, crumbs, when she said something about that people are saving $1,000. Yet 8 years ago, when they were saving $42 a month, she said it was the best thing in the world.
I'm telling you right now, we have to do a balancing, and I've said this at different meetings. Some people don't like to hear the way I look at this, okay? But this is how I do. I've got to make this town, with the rest of this council and the administration, a place that people want to relocate to. Now, if I raise the taxes, it's less desirable. But if I provide the amenities, the safety, and the different things that go into it, and people are talking about Gloucester Township, then people are going to want to go here. So it's a balancing act, okay? What percentage, Tom, if I may, and I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize if you don't have the detail, okay? What percentage is the Public Works Department of our overall township budget?
Oh, I don't know. Budget's 62 million, so we're probably about 4.9. I'm not including sanitation, collection of trash, and
Hey, 5%. What's the give me the police department? What's that percentage of the township budget?
I mean, you have to look at police salaries, other expenses, dispatch, other expenses for dispatch. I would say that budget total is probably 18, 19 million.
How about this building? What percentage? And Dave, I know this is your time, but I think it might benefit people if I can make my point. The salaries in the township building, what percent?
I really couldn't tell you.
But if you wanted to make a 10% cut in the overall township budget, as one of the gentlemen said,
you know what?
Where would you go?
I've been through the whole budget.
I'm not saying cut, sequester. Hold it there. Hold the line.
That's different than what somebody else said, I think. Okay? But it's virtually impossible. Am I correct? You would have to lay off.
I'll be honest, I really don't know what to cut because I've been through this budget, and I will tell you there's very little in there that is
variable
flexible
costs.
and variable costs.
Mostly it's contractual.
It's contractual, and what are you going to do? Collect trash once every 2 weeks? That's not.
In order to have a meaningful tax reduction,
I'm not saying hold the line.
But even to hold the line, given the fact that I think we negotiated all of our contracts, to hold the line, you would have to still lay off a significant number of people, and the layoffs would come from the bottom paid salary.
You have, under civil service, because we are Department of Labor civil service community, and that can't change because once you're in, you can't get out. I guess I kind of tipped my hand as far as whether I want to be in or out. But you know what? Once you're in, you have to follow the guidelines, and the guidelines is follow so forth. All your part-timers go, all your temps go, all your newest hires go, and it takes a long time to get to where even if you look at the biggest budget, the police budget, you're going to be looking at your newest hires, and it just does not go. You're going to have to go through your park patrol. You're going to have to go through that's all going to have to go. Specials. So Dave,
You don't want to cut police because just to hire a police officer, you're talking probably $100,000.
and yet,
in
that's
training.
not going to do it. It's not, that you can't, the demand for the services is there. It's real. This is it. This is the city. You live in a city. Yeah, I get it. There's 6, 7 zip codes. But what police car pulls up wherever you're at?
Oh, the
It's a
police
city.
department,
You live in a city. This is a city. And it has real city problems, crime problems, drug problems.
I'm not saying that.
And you know
I
what?
went to the academy, we kept them in line.
And we're trying to protect this city. Well, my job is to make this city as safe as I can at the most reasonable cost. And I will tell you, it is a challenge. It's a challenge. What we do with the health benefits is an example of going that extra step to try to control costs. You know, combining with Cherry Hill to go out for trash collection and disposal. I mean, we are thinking outside the box. We do a lot of stuff that other places don't do. We help other communities with shared service agreements, charge an administrative fee to do that. We're number one priority. We don't do theirs until ours are done. You know, we buy gas jointly with the schools. We do these things. There are things that we are doing every year to try to save money.
But it's just trying to say, hold the line or see if there's anything you can do that instead of the 8% that I know a couple of years ago was a 12%.
It's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Please, when you see our blanks there up here, please don't think that we don't care. We care. It's just, it's frustrating to us. It really is.
Yeah, I know when you came over, when you were soliciting votes, and I showed you a problem behind it, and it was taken care of within a week. So, and I appreciate that. You and Ms. Swindon.
Thank you, Mr. Hague.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You'll be second, and gentleman in the back will be third, okay? Ma'am, to the gray? Yes, you're up.
Hi.
I'm sorry to point at you.
Yeah, excuse me, it's past my bedtime.
You're not the only one.
Right. Yeah. Judy Jones, 625 Chatham Road, Somerdale.
Hi, Miss Jones.
Judy Jones, yeah. I back up to the famous Owens Corning. I've been in front of the council numerous times over that. Only took me 2 years to win, but we did win. The property, the township owns that property behind me. Now, when I first got my house, I paid $1,200 a year in taxes, and I was worried that I wasn't going to make it. I now pay almost $10,000 a year in taxes. Okay, I got all these wonderful services. However, when I look at my backyard, at my kitchen window there, and I look at my backyard, I see this humongous stack of old, dilapidated, broken down trees that the road department came, Kevin Bucciaroni came, great guy. He reacted within 20 minutes when I called. And it was the year, about 3 years ago, we had this derecho that went through with the wind, and there were some dangerous trees dangling like this, and he showed up within 30 minutes. And so they did a great job, and they brought that little mini bulldozer thing in, and they knocked down all the trees that were dangerous. And they said, don't worry about this, we're going to come back. That was about 3 years ago. So now I'm looking at an 8% increase in my taxes, and I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to put my house up for sale. Who's going to buy my house when they're looking at the Gloucester Township bonfire pile in the back of my yard? That's what it looks like. It looks like a giant bonfire mishmash.
Orlando, we're looking.
I got Judy Jones in Chatham, 31?
I've called
625 Chatham.
Chatham Road, and I've called Kevin. He doesn't answer anymore.
Kevin will call you tomorrow. Kevin will call you tomorrow, and Mr. Cardis will call you tomorrow.
I went to the mayor's office, and nothing happened after that either.
Miss Jones, can you come up and provide your phone number?
Sure. It looks a mess. Giant bonfire fire, that's what it looks like. I'm never going to sell my house. I'm going to give you the
You say you want to supply all this recreational stuff,